Do you know what I am?
My punishment for dropping out of med school.
These videos are not for children. If you are a children, then piss off.
I hate this channel.
Hey there, I'm Infuso, and this movie is a complete disappointment. And I should know, because it takes one to know one. Matter of fact, that was my childhood nickname. Thanks, Mom and Dad. I remember when I first heard that this movie was coming out, I was hyped. Harley Quinn has always been one of my all-time favorite Batman characters. And it was nice to finally see her front and center in a movie. Mind you, this was back in 2017, so this was long before the oversaturation of Harley Quinn in every DCEU film that is planned in the foreseeable future. And to hear that this was a new addition to the Bruce, Tim, and Paul Dini universe? Yeah, sign me up. Take my money. Do you need my social? I worked for a Best Buy at the time, and I was stoked to be able to buy this right after my shift, so I could go home and give it a watch. So I rushed home, watched it, and instant buyer's remorse. I will give this movie this. It's not nearly as bad as I remembered it being the first time around watching it. Hell, I even put this on, and me and my friends actually had a laugh or two watching this. But this movie is just strangely inconsistent and tonally all over the place. I think it also somehow suffers from the DCEU's format, that being a complete lack of an actual format, and things just happen because reference, or because, well, just because. But it's not nearly as bad. I'm sorry, I don't care what you say, I will never like Batman v Superman, it was a betrayal. To give credit to Batman and Harley Quinn, this movie isn't all over the place. If that makes any sense, maybe it doesn't. I just came off watching this for the 6th time so I could review it, so my brain is mush. There actually is a story here, but at times it feels a little bit abstract. You kinda gotta squint your eyes and stand on your head to really see and get a feel for what's going on here. This movie plays out like someone watched the original Batman the Animated Series and then thought, I mean, yeah, it's good, but can we make it more fan service-y? Have you ever heard of Rule 34? So with that being said, let's get right into it, because I'm already upset. The movie starts off with introducing us to the main villains, Poison Ivy and the Floronic Man.
Hey, trying to work here.
It's Dink Man. See, this is the power of THC.
This is why they originally wanted to outlaw marijuana. This is why it's illegal.
This is Reefer Madness on another level.
A pairing that makes a whole lot of sense. It's good to see these two tree huggers on the same page again. Although I think we all remembered what happened the last time Ivy and Woodrue worked together in a DC film.
Sadly, I'm not good at rejection. I'm afraid you'll have to die.
It's in the opening scene that they steal some information on a flash drive. Cue the opening credits. And that's highly underwhelming. I really hope that's not indicative of what the rest of the movie has to offer. At least the opening credits are cool. Though I still don't know why they chose to draw Dick Grayson looking like this. I mean, everyone else just kind of looks similar to their actual cartoon counterpart, but who made this design choice and why did you do that? But whatever, it's a minor thing. I'm gonna overlook it because if I nitpick, then we're gonna be here all day. We're gonna be here several days. We come back to the scene of the crime where Batman gives some basic plot exposition, and it's also where we see the origins of Swamp Thing. And that's when Poison Ivy and Jason Woodrue's evil plans are finally revealed. They're looking to turn everyone into plants. I know! I'm just as shocked as you are! I mean, I hate to be that guy, but isn't this always Poison Ivy's plan? Wasn't her first episode in the animated series this exact plan? I'm just saying, that's her whole premise, you know? You'd think that she'd move on and create a giant man-eating Venus flytrap that could engulf all of Gotham City or something. I mean, I don't know, it's not good, but, you know, at least she's trying something different. I know the expression is, if you fail at first, then try again. But, you know, maybe try a different plan. Don't just do the same thing. You keep doing the same thing, you're not gonna get a different outcome. It didn't work the first time, second, third, fourth. The fifth time, probably still not gonna work.
Insanity is doing the exact same thing over and over again, expecting shit to change. That is crazy.
Holland was transformed into
Swamp Thing. That's it! That's what attacked me.
Whoa, hey, easy there, bigot. All green, hairy nature enthusiasts don't look alike.
I ain't no racist. I mean, some of my best friends are plant people.
Due to Ivy being the main threat, it's decided that Nightwing should track down her only known associate, that chick from the Big Bang Theory.
Hey, thanks again for helping us out with that League of Assassins thing in Nanda Parbat. Oof, that Lady Shiva.
It's moments like this that I really like about the film, when it's doing some additional world building. Just think, this whole animated universe started back in the 90s, and all these years later, it's still expanding its lore.
Take the Donnenfeld Expressway to Bloodhaven.
Black Condor, Elongated Man, Triumph, Bloodwind.
I think passing comments like this that let us know that not only has time passed, but new threats have turned up, is actually somewhat interesting. Lady Shiva, while somewhat prominent in Batman comics, to my knowledge, was never acknowledged before this throwaway line. But now, canonically, she's out there. Somewhere. Doing something. Or some... I know it's just a small detail, but all the small details here add up. And it really gives me more of an appreciation for the overall continuity. I feel like I said that exact line in another video, but hey, I do that from time to time, so why stop now? Meanwhile, is that the proper way of saying that? By the way, did I mention before that this gets kind of fan servicey? Oh wait, maybe I was a little bit too premature with that one. Let's just wait a minute. Did I tell you before that this gets fan servicey? See, that felt good. That felt like the right time.
Anything else for you today, boys?
No.
Okay, pause. Now I gotta bring this up. I have to harp on this here. With all due respect to Melissa Ranch, or Ranch, whatever the hell her name is, she is an awful Harley Quinn. I'm sorry, I'm sure she's good in other things, but here, not so much.
It's just the voice. It's not the right, tone.
Not quite my tempo.
She sounds more like a witch, with the cackle. Yeah, she does sound like a witch.
I am not a fan of Bernadette as Harley Quinn. Personally, I much prefer Penny as Harley Quinn.
Wow! I always wondered what the Batcave looked like. So this must be where you the bats.
Seriously though, she's pretty great. There is nothing about Melissa's performance that feels real or genuine. And look, I know that we're talking about a cartoon about a man in gray tights with black bat ears, but Kevin Conroy gives a very legitimate performance. He speaks with complete conviction, and his delivery always sounds authentic. Except that one time they asked him to laugh in The Killing Joke. I think the world was better off without that scene. I still can't sleep at night. Whereas Melissa here kinda comes off as someone desperately trying to sound like Harley Quinn. And let me just say, you're laying it on a little bit too thick with the accent there. Just dial it back a bit, relax. I just get the feeling that she did the same thing I do from time to time, where I just want to get what I'm saying out of the way, so I can get to my next line. But meanwhile, I'm completely butchering my way through the script, because I'm not being patient, and I'm not giving each and every line the attention it deserves. And here's what throws me off even more. They brought back the original voice actors for Batman and Nightwing, but not for Harley. Look, I get that Arlene Sorkin kinda retired her time as the character after Arkham Asylum. I get that. I'm understanding. But Tara Strong has basically been seen as the go-to voice after her for years now. And she does such a good job that there's plenty of people who don't even realize that Harley is now being played by Batgirl. I'm under the impression that she was actually added to the cast because The Big Bang Theory was also on the air at the time. But her performance just doesn't seem worth the potential name recognition they'd get for this movie. Maybe it's just me. It is a possibility, but for me, for the most part, I couldn't stand her as the character. Contributing degenerates? Go ahead, do your thing in the comment section, let me know how wrong I am. That's what you're here for. I don't know who put you here and told you that was your purpose, but that's what you're here for. Nightwing follows Harley back to her apartment, where she exclaims that she's reformed, and doesn't tangle with either side of the costume crowd. The former Robin insists that he needs her help, and more importantly, Ivy might need her help. Harley insists that she's done with that part of her life, But the boy Blunder pushes the issue and claims she's clearly foaming at the mouth for the chance to get back that part of her life. I mean, otherwise, why else would she subject herself to working at a place called Super Babes? After threatening to report her for not following up with her parole officer, a fight ensues. And Harley kinda kicks Nightwing's ass. And they trust this guy with Bloodhaven? She even secretly doses him with Joker venom. When he awakes, he finds himself tied to her bed. And wow! Harley's really out here giving Cardi B a run for her money, huh? I just want to say now, if the roles were reversed here, and this was a male supervillain tying down a female superhero to a bedpost, regardless if there was or there wasn't a sexual context in said situation, there would be outrage. Do you remember when a few years before this movie came out, a variant comic cover was released for The Killing Joke? It was this picture. This one right here. This, for a little bit, caused a whole bunch of controversy, with people labeling the artist sexist and misogynistic for creating it. This scene, however, was never questioned. Where was Harley Quinn's cancellation, Twitter? Look, I'm not saying either side is right here. I'm just looking for some damn consistency. And speaking of consistency right quick, I also want to point out that there are some people who claim that these new additions to the DC animated universe aren't actually canon, which would surprisingly make total sense, and also make no sense at all, considering that this story kind of completely contradicts what we know about Harley Quinn's character. In Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker, we're showed a flashback, which shows that she's very much still with the Joker up until the end. Of her career, that is, because she doesn't actually die here. She shows up later in the film as the Olsen twins' elderly grandmother. Barbara Gordon even makes reference to Harley in the movie, stating,
"We never found her body, but I doubt she'd be starting trouble now."
And that Harley pretty much disappeared after that day, with nobody knowing what happened to her. This movie writes her off as having disappeared, being found, teaming up with Batman, and by the end of it, ending up with her own TV show. I'm sorry for the spoilers, but that's what happens. Which is a far cry from "we never saw Harley again." So those two stories kind of don't go together. Unless I'm supposed to believe that this happened before that flashback in Batman Beyond, meaning Harley and Joker broke up, she went straight for a little bit, but ultimately wound back up with him again. Which I guess isn't impossible, but it does seem a little bit improbable. So I guess with that information you could say, maybe this is an Elseworlds tale. But then why does it have the same animation style of the animated series? A good chunk of the same cast, and it even goes out of its way to reference the original shows all throughout its runtime as if it's connected to it.
It's Nightwing.
Wing.
Eh?
It's Nightwing.
Guess I was thinking of that goofy mullet you used to have.
Plus it has Bruce Timm attached to it, and I think legally, automatically, that means it's tied to the animated universe. While Nightwing is tied up, Harley decides to start monologuing. But not over some ultimate evil plan, but instead about how she's been forced to take up waitressing and essentially cosplaying as herself because nobody's really willing to hire a former technical terrorist. Imagine that. I mean, I didn't see her resume personally, but I'd hope that she'd know enough to not have the Joker on as a reference. That's all I'm saying. Harley decides to undress. And seriously, am I watching an animated DC movie, or did I just log into the wrong Tube website? I said before that there was fan service in this movie, and there is, like a lot of it, like a whole lot of it.
Here I am, helping you guys out, pro boner, I might add.
But amongst all the animated curves and cracks is also what reads like the fetish section of Pornhub. I mean, look at this.
And anyway, maybe I should help out. Sounds like Ivy could be in some serious trouble. Don't bother yelling for help. Nobody in the whole building but us.
Oh God, no! Stop!
Stop! You stop it! You're gonna make me pay!
Hey!
Oh, how about there? It's ticklish. Stop it!
Oh, holy!
It's not so bad.
Oh man!
Down on my knees, would you make me beg you pretty please?
Fetish shit!
What the effing fuck am I watching? I don't remember all that from back in the... Was that in the original series? I don't think so. I must have drowned that right out.
Ah, see? There you go. Consent. He consented to it.
Anyway, so Harley consensually raped Robin. And that is a sentence I never thought I would have to say. Although that does seem to be a common trope with Nightwing for one reason or another. You know, minus the consent part. And I just want to know, mind you, I'm not mad. I'm not angry. No one's going to be punished. I just want to know. Which one of you fanfic.net writing strange shipping bat bots is responsible for Harley X Old Robin? Look, I'm not saying that this is blasphemy, because I don't think it is. But it's just so out of left field. Did they even share screen time together all that often in the original animated series? I mean, it's not like I think this is terrible or anything. It's just I don't know what to make of this. You know what? It may be bad. It might actually be really bad. It might be awful. But quite frankly, at this point in the runtime, I'm just numb to it.
Oh yay, a leaf. Kinda like all of these.
No, not like those.
See, it is colored indifferently from the rest of the background.
Elsewhere, Ivy's locking lips with some poor schlub to keep him under her control, much to the dismay of the moronic man, and also everybody watching at home. I don't need to see that. The doctor's helping them create the Krabby Patty super secret formula. I think now is a good time to mention Poison Ivy is also given a new voice actress, and she's alright, for the most part. I mean, she's not bad. She's alright. That's all I gotta say. I mean, it's a little jarring hearing a completely different voice coming out of a character that spoke with a significantly different voice previously.
Subtropica Brasilius. As rare as winter roses, Batman.
Our plans are for the improvement of every organism on Earth. The very definition of humane.
But, it's not bad. It's different.
It was pretty good. It was alright. It wasn't great. But it was fine.
Batman walks in on whatever that was. And if you know what it is, please don't tell me. I'm happier living in ignorant bliss. And see that right there? That look of shame that Nightwing has on his face right here? That's the same exact look I had after realizing I just spent my hard-earned work dollars on Batman and Harley Quinn.
Wait, she's coming with us?
Well, yeah, Dick. I think you kinda already made sure she's coming with at least one of you. If you did your job right. The Bat family gains a new temporary partner, as Harley tags along for the ride.
Maybe I'll call you sometime, okay? Like when I'm out of batteries or something.
Meanwhile, Poison Ivy and this talking dime bag are in the midst of replicating the formula that created Swamp Thing, so that they can create a greener Earth. Batman gives us more exposition on Ivy's master plan. He basically explains that if Ivy is successful, the best case scenario is that everyone is mutated into a plant person. Worst case scenario, the accidental extinction of all life on Earth.
The fuck? Why? Oh, yo, Harley Quinn cut ass!
Harley tracks down one of Ivy's top henchmen, which leads to a chase. I mean, Batman? Sure. Robin? Fine. Batgirl? Okay. But Harley Quinn? You're pushing it. You really... She doesn't even have a cape. You know what? I'll give you this. I'll give you that. But some random no-name thug? No. I'm sorry. There is suspension of disbelief, and then there is bullshit, and if my nostrils aren't mistaken, this is bullshit. Not to mention that they literally get nothing out of this, because that's not actually Ivy's henchman, is some dude who Harley went to prom with. Look, I get it, and I'd be lying if I said it didn't get a smirk out of me, but in the overall plot of this movie, it's meaningless. And that's okay to do once, but there are a bunch of things in this movie that are done, just cuz. Harley eventually leads the dynamic duo to a henchman hideout, where we see many of the mindless goons Batman has previously encountered.
Logan and Jake Paul. I love you, bro. Love you too, bro. Yo, why is he talking to Afro Man over here?
Harley gets some information on her gal pal, but not before giving us a musical number, which I'll be honest, is actually one of my favorite parts of the movie. It's not a bad performance at all. Look, even Batman's into it. And Nightwing is, okay, maybe he's actually a little too into it. A little bit less. Dial it back.
Don't call me past 11 p.m. It won't happen again. It happened once, it happened twice, it happened 3 times, maybe 4 times, maybe 5 times, maybe 6 times, maybe it happened 7 times, but it won't happen. You will call me at 10:59, but don't call me past 11, because that's my new rule now.
Despite Harley clearly tearing the house down and giving Blondie a run for her money, the audience of henchmen aren't looking for an encore. They're looking for revenge. And since this is Batman we're talking about, you can imagine how well that goes. There's also a bunch of references to Adam West Batman in this, and these references are all relatively close to each other. I can appreciate the old shout-outs and tip of the hat to the previous generations, or iterations of the character. But it's just a little strange seeing the animated series Batman acting like the 1960s version of that character. They are worlds apart. They might have the same birth certificate, but they're two different people. Mind you, this isn't exactly a complaint, it's just hard to watch this and not make a mental note of that. I would think that this is some kind of tribute to the late great Catman, but I remember this movie coming out roughly around the same time that the OGB passed away. After they fight their way back to the Batmobile, we get a call from Booster Gold, who is treated with the exact level of respect you'd hope he'd be treated with.
Sorry, Booster. Going under some high-tension wires.
That sounds like paper.
Over and out.
And side note, that's actually Bruce Timm himself playing the voice of everybody's least favorite superhero. The terrible trio meet face to face with Mother Nature and Father... Nature. I guess I didn't really think that went through. There's a fight, there's some fire, and that's the full scene. Can I get my money now? The professor helping Ivy is killed off, and Harley really shows her humanity by compassionately comforting this dying stranger. Years later on the DC App's Harley Quinn series, I'm sorry to keep bringing it up, it is really good, seriously. In that series, Harley exclaims that she's a bad guy, but not a bad person. And that's not something original to that show. That's pretty much always been the character's duality. Yes, she's a villain, and yes, sometimes she does awful things, but in the end, there's many more awful things she would never be able to bring herself to do. And despite what a first impression might give you of her character, she can be really empathic. Again, this is another scene I really like from the movie. Elsewhere, feeling somewhat remorseful is Poison Ivy, who's reassured by Dankman over here that they did what needed to be done. Like Harley, Poison Ivy isn't exactly all evil. She has good intentions, but her actions aren't always admirable. Still, she does all that she does in an attempt to preserve life. But I'm not really going to get into the depth of Pamela Isley, especially not when talking about Batman and Harley Quinn, so really, let's just move on with it. Just then, this big sentient weed nug pulls out a yam and tells Ivy to bite into it. And now they're both high as hell. Holy crap, guys, you did it. You really did. You really made Poison Ivy and the Floronic Man get high on their own supply. I was kidding when I referred to him as Dankman. But you did it. That was it. This is a real thing. You turned Jason Woodrue into Captain Cush. Did Kevin Smith come in and do touch-ups to the final script?
Oh shit, they tripping.
Yo, you didn't tell me this was an edible.
Dude, I don't think that was weed we just smoked.
Become one with the green. You gotta give me some of them yams. That was a very tasty Thanksgiving dinner right there.
Elsewhere, Batman makes the decision to continue on his mission without Harley, which doesn't really fly by her. And of course, in the end, Harley gets her way. I'm sure you could have imagined that, though, given the Nightwing before. She's persistent.
Oh, please, Mr. Kinda Scary, but actually really nice Batman.
Isn't that you too?
I don't know how to take that.
Can I just take the time to mention right now, after rewatching this for the upteenth time? Dick's kind of a dick, isn't he? I mean, he's always got this smarmy look on his face, and he's always nonchalantly smirking. What a smug little bastard. And that shrug. I swear, if I see his pompous prick shrug one more time, I'm gonna cut the shoulders off that boy. The good guys and bad guys show up in Swamp Thing's Ground Zero, where Harley, as Batman suspected, betrays the two men named after winged creatures in favor of helping her BFF. She first tries to reason with her partner in crime, but after seeing that that's a meaningless effort, Harley destroys Ivy's tree, setting Batman and not Robin free.
Yeah, those bars.
Ivy's plant monsters take out numerous nameless officers aiding the Caped Crusader. Batman and Nightwing get beat by the Floronic Man, and Harley and Ivy reenact one of my favorite scenes from Step Brothers. Eventually, Harley manages to reason with Ivy by manipulatively crying. And it works. It's not like there was a real tearjerker moment here either. She just flat out said she's gonna use this against Ivy. She takes her mask off and cries. And Ivy's like, oh shit, fuck the trees. That's it. Pretty girl crying saves the day. Well, I guess maybe the afternoon, because there's still more to this day. And Jason Woodrew's still pissed. But bad news for him, because here's the Swamp Thing cameo we've been building up this whole movie for.
Yes, Swamp Thing.
Though your cause is just, your actions have upset the balance. But it is not.
And this was the best way you could think to include Swamp Thing? Disgraceful. Now here's what a creative genius, would have done if I was in charge of making this movie. Here's my edit of the Swamp Thing cameo.
What are you doing in my swamp?
Somebody once told me the world was gonna roll me. I ain't the shepherd doing the shit. Swamp Thing is like an onion. He's got layers.
See that? Infinitely better. Seriously, DC, give me the book. I clearly know what I'm doing. I mean, I don't mean to brag, but does 44,000 subscribers mean anything to you? Probably not.
I return now to the Parliament of Trees.
Now the trees have a parliament too? Where is the Senate of the trees then? He's like, the trees got bureaucracy now.
Against all tradition, the bad guy actually wins here. Until Harley decides to burn him because he's made out of weed. Leaves. I'm sorry. It's a long day. This is a strange movie. And that's how the movie ends. Like a goddamn Looney Tunes short. Beautiful. That was Batman and Harley Quinn. And it is, really a mixed bag. This is a strange fever dream of an animated Batman movie. And like I said at the beginning of this video, it's all over the place. And the references are head-scratching, to say the least. Like, there's one part of the movie where Harley decides to reference the Seduction of the Innocent book. A book which is a very real book that claimed that Batman and Robin was trying to indoctrinate kids into a gay lifestyle. There's a shitload of Adam West Batman shoutouts, and I don't really know why. A big issue I do take with the movie is that there never really feels like there's any real threat. Ivy's master plan has been overdone to death by now, and it doesn't matter if you add Jason Woodrue and Swamp Thing's Chemical X. It's still just a tired rehash of a story that's already pretty much been perfected. The villains seem necessary only to start the plot up, to give Batman and Harley a reason to team together. But after that story starts, they just seem almost irrelevant to everything else going on. Everything in this movie, the villains, the plot, Batman, everything, seems to take a backseat to Harley Quinn. And I feel like a more fleshed out concept would have worked a bit better, rather than just piecing something together to put a spotlight on a character. This movie does give you occasionally really entertaining moments, especially when it isn't taking itself too seriously and the runtime is spent cracking jokes. Like I said, this movie did genuinely get me and my friends to crack up while watching it. Here's a little highlight reel of the scenes that I'm talking about.
Gonna lose that hand, Puddin'.
Hey chick, this crazy broad broke my frickin' arm!
That Lady Shiva. Wouldn't say no to a slice of that pie, know what I mean? So,
did you get...
The whole thing is over. You're gonna put in a good word for me with the parole board.
No.
Don't you need...
I don't make deals with psychopaths.
Sociopath. Jeez, why does everybody always get that wrong?
I'm sorry, Batman. That's classified. My hands are tied.
Strange that you would put it just that way.
What Mistress Ilsa does for me is considered therapy.
in some countries.
These are genuinely funny scenes, and the movie also does provide occasional heartwarming moments. But amongst these good things is a sea of puzzling choices that would even have the Riddler stumped. I can't really say that I'm a fan of this movie, but I guess I also don't hate it entirely. I will say this though, there's plenty of times I'm creeped out by it, don't know what's going on, don't want to find out. So really just overall, it's a real roller coaster of emotion for me.
What do you have that your comrades don't?
A cape.
Hey there, it's me, your least favorite YouTuber, Infuso. Back at it again with yet another Batman video on yet another Batman movie that I've yet to see. Now, I bought this movie back on day 1, but we're now on year 2 of me having this, and I still haven't seen it. Much like Gotham by Gaslight, this movie is another Elseworlds Batman tale. This time taking place in the 1970s, taking very obvious inspiration from kung fu flicks and James Bond movies. A fact that is made very evident before the opening credit sequence even begins.
And you are?
Dragon. Richard Dragon.
Now, just by hearing all of this, I think you can probably already tell that this is a very, very different type of Batman story. But the truth of the matter is, this is barely a Batman story at all. I think my biggest issue with the movie is that it's a Batman movie in name only. Bruce isn't even introduced or brought into this movie until we've already had a few scenes with our main protagonist, who is not Batman, and our main antagonist, who is also not Batman. I don't know why he would be. A whole 10 minutes of runtime is devoted to Richard Dragon and his dude who kinda resembles a cobra, making Bruce feel like a little bit of an afterthought when he finally shows up. And then that fact is cemented by the rest of the movie. Even in the opening credits, he's taking a backseat to the other characters. In a weird way, Batman feels like an unneeded addition in what is allegedly his own movie. I really think that you could just take Batman out of the equation altogether, and it really wouldn't affect all that much. Like, if you replaced Batman in this with any other DC character, or hell, an original made-up character for this movie, it doesn't change anything. By the end of the movie, it really feels like the only reason Batman was added into the mix at all is so they can include him on the cover and in the trailers. Let's face it, if you name something Batman, it's much more likely to sell. Case in point, me buying this movie the day it came out, despite having no immediate intention of watching it. To take it a step further, Bruce is only in the suit for less than a handful of scenes. Like, we're talking about 3, maybe 4 tops. Batman being involved in this plot is such a non-factor. He's a side character who could have easily been replaced by just about anybody. No one else is in a costume in this movie until like one scene at the end, and it's only one other person. So he stands out and feels completely out of place in what is, once again, supposed to be his own movie. He doesn't feel important or specific to the plot. He doesn't feel like he has his own story arc. He doesn't even really get any time to shine during the runtime of the film. This is not a Batman movie. This is a Richard Dragon movie disguised and purposed as a Batman movie. Like, honestly, I could probably do the rest of this review without ever mentioning the Caped Crusader again. That's how inconsequential he is in his own movie. He's not the main character, he's not what the story is about. Hell, he's not even the one who saves the day at the end of the movie. I'm gonna be honest with you, this movie really wasn't catching my attention at first. As someone who's never been too deep into the James Bond series, or Bruce Lee movies, or the 1970s in general, I guess, it just wasn't doing it for me. Then you add on top of that the lack of Batman in what is being promoted as a Batman movie. I just wasn't a fan of this. But this one scene, this one speech, is where things started to turn around for me. Because I'm such a fan of what this scene represents.
Evil is as eternal as this rock. Even if you break the rock, there will be pebbles. Break the pebbles, there will be sand.
Even after being told that erasing evil is a meaningless effort, even after being told that the rock will never truly fully break, Bruce doesn't give up. He persists, bloodying his knuckles. Knowing that he is looking at an impossible task, it doesn't stop him. He keeps going, he keeps trying. he still does all that he can. And to me, this is Batman. Batman is never giving up, even when the odds are against you. Even when there is no possible chance of winning, to rise to that challenge one way or another regardless. Batman doesn't fight evil because he knows it's a fight that he'll win. He fights evil because he opposes it. It's not about victory, it's about doing what's right. And doing what's right at any cost. That is Batman. Outside of this, I really like a lot of what is done aesthetically. And I especially like that this Batman more closely resembles Batman in his first ever comic book appearance. It's a nice little touch there. It's cute. I like it. I like this movie's use of DC characters who are less mainstream. It definitely puts a spotlight on the less read pages of DC Comics Encyclopedia. I know I had to look up a name or two myself during. And I even like that it has some actors returning to the roles they played in separate continuities. Michael J. White returns to the role of Bronze Tiger, a role that he played back on Arrow. And Kelly Hu returns to the role that she played in Arkham Origins, that of course being Lady Shiva. I like the structure of the story, going between past and present to play out its plot properly. I'm a fan of this type of storytelling when it's done right. And here, it is definitely done right. This movie balances its timeline well, never devoting too much time to what's already happened or what's currently happening. It also very clearly differentiates its two time periods as well, so it's all very digestible and understandable. It's not like you have to sit down and start taking notes. This isn't Memento. Another trope this plays on is getting the band back together, and that's a trope that I really like. So the fact that it's basically the focal point of this flick,
I like it.
It takes place in its own world, in its own universe, and it's doing its own thing entirely. If you wanted to see Batman get trained by the League of Assassins, well, you're kinda shit out of luck. Because here, Bruce Wayne was trained by O-Sensei, along with a whole class of other characters, including the well-trained and dedicated deadly ninja and assassin Lady Shiva, the furious fighter Bronze Tiger, the agile agent with attitude Jade, Rip the war hero, and O-Sensei's protege, Richard Dragon, or as I like to call him, Richie the Dragon Steamboat. They train in a monastery where there's a secret passage referred to only as the Gate. It's a forbidden door that is the physical embodiment of the phrase, "Don't ask, don't tell." The mystical doorway is shrouded in mystery, and also mysticism, but I already said that. O-Sensei grants his top student Shiva the Soulbreaker's sword, an item that he entrusts to her, even if he doesn't necessarily trust her enough to reveal its intended purpose. I enjoy the scenes watching this team interact and slowly become a family. Watching them fight through their differences and learning to respect each other in spite of them. Watching them bond and become a unit. It's all great, but I just wish there was a little bit more of it. Regardless, I think this movie did a really good job of explaining its characters and establishing their relationships in just an hour and 22 minutes. For a bunch of characters I didn't know prior to pressing play, I now feel like I have a better understanding of their motivations, their goals, their personalities, and that's no easy task. Especially when considering that's a very limited time to endear an audience to a bunch of C, D, and Z-list characters. Rip eventually betrays the team, stealing the Soulbreaker and killing Jade in the process, all while trying to open the portal. With the use of Soulbreaker, Jade is sacrificed, and the gate opens to reveal...
Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
The snake-like demons kill Rip, so... Rip. The team fights off these snake-like demons in a hellish battle, with O-Sensei ultimately sacrificing himself to properly close the portal. Back in present day, a snake cult named Cobra... No, not that one. This one's with a K. Cobra is looking to open up the gateway once more. Because yeah, of course they are. Their name is Cobra. They have a bunch of lame snake-like characters in their cult, which I'm also gonna spell with a K here as well. But this gang is just filled with a bunch of lame asses who have an affinity for serpents.
Snake. I'm a snake. I'm a snake. I'm a snake.
You have its leader, who I think is just called Cobra, once again, with a K. You got a guy whose limb turns into snakes. He has some German name that I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce because I'll say it and then I'm not only saying it wrong, but I'm probably saying something offensive. But then again, almost anything in German sounds offensive for some reason. So I'm just going to call him the Human Hydra. You have King Snake, who thought that tattoo was a good idea. And then you have Lady Eve, who is...
She's the useless chick! Oh! Yeah!
So that's the whole class of Slytherin this school year. I like the way this movie depicts its characters, and it kind of gives everyone their own defining moment. The movie tells us a lot about its leads without necessarily always coming right out and saying it. Like the way Richard Dragon uses his intelligence to defeat King Snake by obscuring his hearing and playing mind games with him. Or the way that Shiva loses her sword in battle, but doesn't lose her cool.
Fool, you gave up your weapon. I am the weapon.
And the way Bronze Tiger shows a moment of true humanity, finding himself unable to murder Cobra as a child, despite knowing that he is destined to do awful things. All of these characters are flawed but likable, and despite their contrasting personalities and interests, when aligned together, they make for a pretty great team. Side note here, there does seem to be some Mortal Kombat shoutouts, like these guys over here who look like a cross between Raiden and Sub-Zero. Of course, this could be a reference to something culturally that I'm completely unaware of. And if that's the case, and you know and I don't, I love to learn. Let me know in the comment section below. But yeah, the first time I saw this, all I can think of was... And it didn't help matters that later in the movie, Shiva goes one-on-one with fucking Kano over here.
Fine. Have it your way.
Overall, I think this is actually a pretty good movie. But it in no way, shape, or form is a good Batman movie. Or even a Batman movie at all. I like this movie a whole lot. I think it's good. I think it's even great. It is absolutely something I would, and probably will, watch again for entertainment purposes alone. I'm not even trying to make money off it. I'm gonna watch it. That's how much I like it. But this is not a Batman movie. This is a movie that has Batman in it. And even then just barely. I enjoyed watching this so much that, quite frankly, I'm a little bit bummed out that there's no follow-up. All I'm saying is I wouldn't mind visiting this Elseworld again. And the way this movie ended, the way that they closed it off, it leaves it wide open for a sequel. Not only does it set up the possibility of a sequel, as a matter of fact, I think a sequel is a necessity at this point. It needs one. It needs to happen. Bruce Timm, if you're listening, as you so often do to this channel, don't do me like that, man. I need to know what happens next. You didn't even end this movie. You just started a new one and then went to credits. If you're looking to just sit down and be entertained, I would highly recommend this movie. If you're a diehard Batman fan, then yeah, I would also recommend this movie. But I want you to know what you're getting into. This movie isn't awesome because Batman's in it. It's awesome and Batman just so happens to be in it. A little bit. Anyway, with all that being said, I was your least favorite YouTuber, V Infuso. That was Batman Soul of the Dragon, and I thank you for watching. Hope to see you in the next one.
The bat!
Holy shit!
It's me, your least favorite YouTuber, V Infuso. Here to talk about what I believe is without a doubt one of the most underrated Batman movies of all time. I think this one flew under the radar for most, no bat pun intended, and those who did see it were just kinda meh about the whole ordeal. But trust me, this is it. Batman Gotham by Gaslight is an adaptation of the book of the very same name, but I'm using that term very loosely here, as the story is very loosely adapted from that comic book. As a matter of fact, when all is said and done, these two stories have much more to contrast than they do to compare. They're much more different than they are alike. Basically, all the movie and the book have in common outside of a title, or the time period it takes place in, and the character's design. But otherwise, they're two entirely different experiences. I do intend on covering the comic book here on the channel, so if that's something you might be interested, let me know in the comment section by leaving a comment saying, Gotham by Gaslighting. Like I said, they're not all going to be intelligent or particularly well thought out, but these weird code words, they help me out a lot. You guys help guide me down the right path on this channel. Think of yourselves as the gaslight to my lantern.
Move this man!
Let me be real with you, I usually save this for the end, but I love this movie. Firstly, I'm a sucker for Elseworld stories, especially when those stories have a good story to tell, or interesting ways of reinventing characters. And this movie is chock full of that. I think they have some really interesting uses and reimaginings for certain Batman characters. Having the original 3 Robins team together as a street gang of orphans, showcasing Poison Ivy as a burlesque dancer with the leaf gimmick, having Catwoman as a nightclub performer and a sort of advocate of women, and Hugo Strange is... No, well, Hugo Strange just kind of stays the same, but he's wearing a hat now, so there is that. And having Leslie Tompkins serve the role as a nun as opposed to a doctor seems fitting for this time period, as I'd imagine there weren't too many female doctors. They're all great. Sure, most of these characters don't play major roles, but they do find a place in the story, and their presence is never too distracting. It'd be far too easy to make them all unnecessary cameos. But most of them serve some sort of purpose, even if it's not that much of one. I like how, in order to properly fit in with the times, a whole bunch of characters are intentionally worsened. Like, this is the sleaziest interpretation of Harvey Dent ever put to film.
Bruce, I'm in love.
Well, that's great news, Harvey. I'm sure your wife will be glad to hear it.
They make mention of him acting like 2 different people, but if that's the case, then both of them suck. And Harvey Bullock... Well, no, Harvey Bullock pretty much stays the same. Except now we have the added benefit of seeing him with a handlebar mustache and mutton chops. Seeing these variations of these characters does a whole lot to allow us to better understand this version of Gotham City. And it also emphasizes that despite the change of scenery, this still is in fact Gotham City. The characters feel like the characters we've grown up watching and reading, just time error appropriate. Except for 1 or 2 characters who have gone through some immense changes, but I think they're warranted in their own unique way. We'll get to that later. It walks the line of being completely different, but all too similar. Now, it's not all great. This movie does have its faults. I will admit the animation does look like it's a little bit cheap. Some corners have definitely been cut, and they found a way to work around a budget. But I still think that they did a serviceable job, and it's alright. It's not the best, but it's not like it's awful. It's just okay. But I think this movie makes up for whatever blemishes it has. The money may not have gone into making this look like a great Batman movie, but at least it went into securing the right people to make this a great Batman movie. You have a top-notch voice cast. You got Dexter's sister as Selena Kyle, and she is perfect. Now, I wrote down to purr on perfect, but at last minute I realized that I was neither a cat nor a woman. It didn't feel right in any context. Giles from Buffy is playing Alfred, which is just as great as it sounds. Spider-Man is Harvey Dent. The dude from Gilmore Girls plays Commissioner Gordon. At least I think he's from Gilmore Girls. I've never seen the show, but I saw commercials, so I'm going to assume that that's him. I might be wrong. We'll check in post. They even brought in Gray DeLisi and Tara Strong to voice other characters. Not to mention that Bruce Greenwood is back as Batman. Let me tell you, you cannot go wrong with having Bruce voice Bruce. It's too great. Dude always does his part and does it well. I didn't include him in my initial top 5 Batman. If I got the chance to redo it all again, I definitely would. That was a huge mistake on my part. It's hard to single out one good performance with this cast of people, because everybody is so on point for this. I think if I had to just pick 1 or 2, it'd probably be Batman and Catwoman. I was genuinely surprised to learn that Jennifer Carpenter was the woman behind Catwoman. It's not the kind of performance I would expect out of her based on some of her previous work, but man, she really nails the role, and I would not mind seeing her return to the character in some form or another. Honestly, I'm a little bit bummed with how little Alfred gets to do when he's given the perfect voice actor. I'm hoping we get to see Anthony Stewart Head get another chance to perform as Alfred. And I'm hoping he gets another chance, not because he messed up the first chance, but because this movie messed up by not giving him more attention. This whole movie has a really interesting concept. Having Batman take on the infamous Jack the Ripper. It's not something I would have ever thought of, but then again, neither is Pirate Batman or Joker Batman. Vampire Batman maybe, but that's an easy one. He's a bad person, they're bad people, it just makes too much sense. Jack the Ripper mostly targets women of a certain work environment. Let's call them sex workers. He specifically goes after sex workers because societally it's quietly accepted. And when I say quietly, I mean shouting at a full volume.
Women are being gutted in the streets like wild game, and the Gotham police stand twiddling their thumbs.
No ladies have been killed, Miss Kyle. Some gin-soaked women of the street have met their fate,
as is common to their kind.
These women are seen as lesser than, and because of that, there isn't that big of an investigation or a call to end the Ripper. It would even seem that there are some who support his heinous action. On the police squad. The movie makes it seem like there's only 3 interested parties in helping these ladies out. Them being none other than our dear Dark Knight, Catwoman minus the cat, and of course, good old Commissioner Gordon. Man, that guy is great and everything. He just... what a good man. Now, normally, Selina Kyle is a character who I think for the most part is out for herself, and always looking out for her own best interest, despite also having a surprisingly soft spot for Batman. But I think placing her in this time period and this environment, with these specific circumstances, where women are being looked down upon like second-class citizens, would have a profoundly different effect on the character. Growing up in a certain environment is going to have an effect on your personality and your mentality. When you get down to it, we are who we're allowed to be. So I think she comes off as true to her nature, but given the fact that women at this time are thought so little of, I think her need to look out for herself would become a need to look out for those in her situation. Am I reaching a little bit here? Maybe. But that's my headcanon, and it makes sense to me. So, bite me. The movie does a very good job at creating and building up the mystery of Jack the Ripper. There are several red herrings, with the most prominent being Harvey Dent, who I think played the perfect scapegoat for this plot. Everybody knows that Harvey Dent is Two-Face, a man who even prior to his scarring was of 2 minds. Harvey suffers from dual identities, and there's several references made throughout of Harvey acting different in different situations. On top of that, Harvey's also seen with the top hat, much similar to Jack the Ripper on a couple of occasions. The plot twist that Jack the Ripper is none other than Jim Gordon himself was an absolute shock to me and my buddy Reyes the first time we watched this movie. And I kinda love it for that. It's not very often that movies surprise me. As someone who constantly ruins movies for his closest friends and family by correctly guessing the ending or plot twist while we're watching the movie, by the way, you can imagine I usually go to the movie theater alone. This is one ending I did not guess. I came nowhere near close to connecting these dots. And I think a big part of the reason is because I felt at ease with these characters. I knew Jim Gordon. It couldn't have been Jim. The fact that it could have been Jim never even crossed my mind. Jim wouldn't do this. That's not his nature. But he did. And I love it for that. The movie was clearly leading us to think that Jack the Ripper was Harvey Dent. There was a scene or two where I thought it might have been too obvious, but hey, maybe this movie is less about the mystery and more about the story in full. I was really banking on Jack the Ripper being Harvey's separate identity. But instead, this movie took a risk, and I think it kind of paid off. Now, some of you may say that this is complete destruction of everything we know about Jim Gordon. An honest man who is trying to do good in a corrupt system. The heart of the GCPD. Always doing what's right, even if it's not right for him. How could they write him out to be some sort of woman-hating lunatic? Well, first and foremost, let us remember that this is in fact an Elseworld story. Meaning that these characters aren't the characters we're used to. They're completely different reimaginings of these characters. And secondly, I'd like to point out that this appears to be some sort of amalgamation of both Jim Gordon Sr. and Jim Gordon Jr. Jim Gordon Sr. in name and status, and Jim Gordon Jr. in being a bloodlusting psychopath. The plot twist is one of those twists that make me appreciate the rest of the movie more. I like that it managed to hide this reveal in plain sight. When rewatching certain scenes, it's clear as day. Jim is haunted by nightmares of the Ripper taking the life of his wife. And as a first-time viewer and someone who's familiar with these characters, I would think that this is just due to the love of his family and fear of what could happen, mixed with the excess time that he spent working on the case. But following the twist, rewatching this, you realize it's actually his fear of his own murderous wrath meeting his wife, and having her meet a terrible fate. Or in that same exact scene when Jim is in private with his wife, talking about how he must rid the streets of evil and stop Gotham from, in his own words, going to hell. You would think that he's talking about stopping the Ripper, but in actuality he's talking about cleansing Gotham of the ladies of the night. He feels he's just in his actions by eradicating women of ill repute. I like a lot of the subtle little references they make in passing here. There's not a whole lot of attention put on them, but they're said and done with intention. Like, if you don't know, it's not going to take anything away from the story for you, but if you know, you know.
What are you, scared of the dark, little Tim?
Nah, it's just after what happened to Johnny Gobbs,
That ain't real, Timmy.
What, are you scared of heights?
After what happened to Johnny Gobbs.
Hey, look, man, Johnny Gobbs got ripped and took a walk off a roof, all right? No big loss.
I heard the bat got him.
The bat? Oh, man.
Who will face Cyrus Gold? Big Bill Dust territory. Interfering with my amiable cock Robbins.
There's plenty more than just Easter eggs here, though. A lot is conveyed about these characters in this world through simple actions. Alfred outwitting a street gang and holding his own well could be an indication of the character's known past with the CIA, or whatever would be the time-appropriate equivalent here. In the movie, they refer to Gotham's Ferris wheel as the Fox Wheel. Now, the Ferris wheel is named that way because the dude who made it was named something Ferris, which means in this case, the unseen Lucius Fox is the creator of such. Selina Kyle never dons the catsuit in this, but many mentions of cats are made in reference to her, including eventually her giving her backstory of originally being a lion tamer at the zoo.
Listen carefully, kitten. I'm many things, but I'm nobody's pet.
Hugo Strange deduces Batman's secret identity, much like he does in the comics and video games. Although there are some things that I openly wonder if they are actual references or maybe I'm just looking into them too much. Like, this one always bothered me. Are we supposed to take the old drunkard as this world's Harley Quinn? Because her name is Marlene, which is awfully close to Harleen, which is the original name of Harley Quinn. She acts like an absolute nut, much like Harley Quinn, and she's also voiced by Tara Strong, much like Harley Quinn. Also, Jim Gordon damages one side of his wife's face and his brutality sends her into psychosis. So, like, is that just something that happens, or is that this version of events is Two-Face? Thoughts in the comment section, I actually want to hear them. I think the action in this movie is really, really good. Yes, everything is done on a budget, but I think that they made that budget work. The sequence of events makes every fight scene must-see. This movie demands your utmost attention in these moments. So much as blinking means you're missing the movie's next epic moment. Now, there's two major fight scenes between Batman and the Ripper, one of which takes place on a blimp about to explode, crashing into buildings and ruining the city. And the final battle between good and evil includes hand-to-hand combat amidst a Ferris wheel on fire. That is an accurate description of what happens in this movie, and it is every bit as crazy as it sounds. Maybe even more so. Now, as an adaptation, I would say this movie is rather unfaithful. Much like these women, am I right, James? No, seriously, like, it is really unfaithful to the actual comic. Not only is the Ripper not Jim Gordon in that, but the original story didn't even include or mention Catwoman, who is pretty integral to the plot here. She didn't even exist in that telling of the tale. So as an adaptation that faithfully matches its source material, no, this is not great. But on its own merit, I enjoyed this quite a bit. I like its reimagining of these characters. I like that this time period provides a fresh atmosphere for them. And I like that it's something old, but something new at the same time. Not only did it have an interesting environment to tell its story in, it had an interesting story to tell in that environment. It's definitely a more simple telling of the tale than the comic is, but I find that sometimes when you simplify a story, it makes it easier to perfect. Batman Gotham by Gaslight is one of my all-time favorite Batman movies. I would absolutely say this movie is must-see, so if you haven't given it a chance yet, I highly advise you to check it out. With all that being said, I was your least favorite YouTuber, Infuso, and I thank you for watching. Hope to see you in the next one.
Gotham by Gaslight, hands down, must watch if you're into the animated films. Especially, this is definitely top favorites. It's just so different, so unique, and it's like a breath of fresh air.
Everyone's been calling me Dairoku Tinmouth, the Demon King!
This way you won't look too suspicious.
Excuse me, what?
Hey there, I'm the SIJW V Infuso, and Batman Ninja is one of the most batshit crazy movies ever put to Blu-ray, DVD, and digital download. This is by far the strangest incarnation of Batman in all of live action or animated history. And not for the reasons that you're probably thinking, but also for those reasons as well. And you're probably thinking, oh, V's just exaggerating because this is anime Batman. This is Batman in ancient Japan. But I don't think you're understanding just how Japanese this is. You add in a little bit more fan service and a pair of tentacles, and this is the most Japanese movie to ever Japan. Am I making sense? Probably not, but I guess that's fitting because we're talking about Batman Ninja. Batman Ninja. Even the title is just, I'm losing my mind. Batman Ninja is just, how do I even describe to you Batman Ninja? Where do I begin? Batman v Superman is a more coherent film. This movie makes Batman and Robin look like Citizen Kane. Batman and Harley Quinn is a more competent picture than this. Batman Ninja makes the Killing Joke cartoon look like the Killing Joke comic book. The Beware the Batman series has a better and more fleshed out story than this. To call this movie insane would be offensive to all the inmates at Arkham Asylum. And let me just start off by saying I dropped the ball on this one. I dropped the ball. I was watching Batman Ninja with black friend Alan. Real name, by the way, I've seen his birth certificate. And we considered filming our reaction to this movie to use for this future video, but then I decided against it because the camera's batteries were charging, and I just wanted to watch a movie to pass the time. Besides, I didn't really think that this movie would provide us all that much content. But oh, how wrong I was. How wrong I was. Me and Alan wound up taking a shot of Crystal Head vodka every time something insane happened, and by the end of it, Alan was slurring his words so much that he made little to no sense, and I wasn't sure if it was from the drinking or the pure confusion at what he was watching. Probably a combination of both. I couldn't tell if it was from the booze or from the bats. That's how insane this movie gets. Luckily, I did manage to film a few of my other friends' reactions to the movie, and I will be using them throughout this video.
What the fuck is going on?
So with that being said, as Michael Keaton once said,
Come on, let's get nuts.
We open up to a modern-day Arkham Asylum, with a Catwoman narration that seems more in place in an Arkham Knight DLC.
You think you've heard every Batman story? I promise, you haven't.
All right, you are.
Inside the asylum, Batman and Gorilla Grodd are in the midst of a battle, with Catwoman present when one of Grodd's devices goes off and seems to suck all those who surround it into a vortex.
And this time, curiosity almost killed this cat.
Batman, of course, instead of trying to avoid it, meets it head on. Smart. And I'm gonna pause this right here. I'm sorry, I know it's pretty early on in this review to stop the film for my commentary, but this confused me the first time watching this. Because I didn't know anything about this movie. At all. I didn't watch the trailers, but I seen that they were up on YouTube. I saw the artwork for this, and I guess I was just under the impression from the images and screenshots of the movie that this was another Batman Elseworld story, a one-off alternate version of the character. And in some ways, it kinda is, but also, it's not. You see, this isn't an alternate Batman of ancient Japan story. This is a Batman Goes to Ancient Japan story. And even after watching this, I think the former would be a little bit more ideal than the latter. But then again, the latter did provide this review, so gotta thank the boys at the WB for that. Batman arrives in ancient Japan, a conclusion which Bats comes to relatively quickly.
From the look of it, this is ancient Japan.
There he is! There's our boy! World's greatest detective! Upon his arrival, he's immediately attacked by a group of samurai, who look to take him out.
Don't want to hurt any of you.
So that was a f***ing lie.
We were sent to find the bat.
Who's your master?
Okay, first off, kinky. And secondly, who's their master? Who's their master? Did you look at their masks? Their pale-faced, giant smile, pointed nose, purple helmet with a small flower design on the side? Masks? The world's greatest detective, folks! People who have never picked up a Batman comic, or watched a Batman movie, or played a Batman video game would be able to figure out who they're working for. But Bats, he needs to question it. Instead of heading into round 2, Batman drops his lucky 8-sided dice, allowing him to make his escape in a cloud of smoke. Batman tries to use the Bat computer built into his suit, only to find that ancient Japan doesn't have any Wi-Fi. He then makes his way over to a palace where he sees who else but Kefka from Final Fantasy. Oh my god! Come on, I can't be the only one who thought that. All in all, I don't hate the design. There definitely have been worse Jokers, and yeah, I'm looking at you!
That's right, Bats. It is I.
Damn you!
With all due respect, that is bullshit!
Allow me to give you an artistic recreation of how this situation would have ended up if someone actually tried to sneak up on Batman. I mean, seriously, you don't get one over on the Dark Knight, folks.
And Harley Quinn.
Everyone's been calling me Dairoku Tinmouth, the Demon King, the most powerful man in Japan. But you can call me Lord Joker.
The style of this movie is really different from what you'd find in your standard Batman movie or game. And I'm not just talking about the setting, though that's also true. I can't think of too many times Batman had to head to ancient Japan, but the artwork and the animation style are really intriguing. And I'm not an art expert, so I don't want to go on with this for too long, but I definitely can appreciate the visuals, as they stand out as one of the most positive traits this movie has to offer. Batman and Joker duke it out because they're Batman and the Joker. That's kind of their thing. That's kind of what they do. With Joker delivering painfully lame punchlines throughout.
Oh, now look what you've done! Poison Ivy would be very disappointed. I have to say I've really enjoyed the sushi here. Mwah! It's even better with some sauce. Don't you know how bad razor-edged fighting fans are for the environment?
You're the one who keeps throwing them.
Because you won't let them hit you! Oh, don't run away. I'm your biggest fan!
And who is this guy? Me? Come on, get better material.
What are you going to do now, Joker?
Oh, I've got options, Bats. I've still got Harley. And an army of samurai who have you surrounded.
Batman once again battles Joker's samurais and takes out as many as he can before taking off.
What was that? That was Spider-Man. You can do that in Spider-Man. You can capture someone and go...
And see, things like this is what I really love about this movie. Seeing Batman interact with this environment for the first time is definitely more visually stimulating than seeing Batman fight in a dark, polluted city at night, usually in an alley of some kind. Don't get me wrong, I love Gotham, and I love it as the background for Batman, but we as an audience have become so accustomed to that. This is something new for both us as a viewer and Batman as a character. He also has to find new ways to protect himself, new shadows to lurk behind, and new ways to look like a bat. It also puts him at a little disadvantage that he's not used to his surroundings, which adds to the central conflict, because let's face it, it's usually Batman's enemies at a disadvantage when facing him. Because... I'm the goddamn Batman.
Should we go after him, Lord J?
I've got people.
Don't be afraid. It's just a little cat call.
Yeah, that's something Catwoman would do, right on the money, guys. That's what I think of when I think of Catwoman. Tiny cat hand puppets. That's good. You guys are doing good. Tell your story. I'm just the viewer. Catwoman and Batman walk and talk, with Selina giving exposition, explaining that the portal brought Batman to Japan 2 years later than everyone else at Arkham Asylum, probably because he was the last to get sucked up by the black hole. Catwoman explains that Gorilla Grodd, Joker, Penguin, Poison Ivy, Two-Face, Deathstroke, and Harley Quinn, amongst others, were sucked up by Grodd's time machine. Batman also remembers that Nightwing, Robin, and Red Hood were also with him. But Catwoman hasn't seen any of them. Catwoman then goes on to tell Bruce that the Joker, Penguin, Poison Ivy, Deathstroke, and Two-Face have all become lords, and taken over states, and are looking to unite Japan to become its official ruler. Bruce decides to make himself inconspicuous, and takes on a new disguise.
This missionary look is not bad.
And are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Bruce, you suck! You suck, Bruce! You suck as a detective, and you suck as a master of disguise. You're out here trying to go incognito, and you're carrying around a bat Bible with the bat symbol shaved into your head. Are you... Who is this supposed to fool?
Why do you have a bat symbol on your head?
Strange.
Is that cold? Why? Why?
This way you won't look too suspicious as a Westerner.
You are immediately the most suspicious person in all of Japan, in all of Japan's history. If people are looking for Batman, why would you, when trying to divert attention from yourself, would you have the bat symbol all over your being? At best, they think that you were associated with the bat. Also, how? How did you grow a beard from one shot into the next? It's never explained. I guess I'm supposed to think that it's fake. Did you take the hair follicles off your head and glue them to your face? I don't understand you, Bruce. I want to, but I don't. Selina and Bruce find the Joker's tampering with history by already having coal. Okay? And oh yeah, Alfred's also here.
Care for some tea, sir? Much appreciated. Alfred.
This is the world's greatest detective.
Which makes sense, I guess, considering we saw footage of him with the Batmobile before. But wait, hold on. If we're going with the narrative that Batman wound up getting to ancient Japan 2 years after everyone else because he got hit with the blast later, how did Alfred make it there before him? My head is beginning to hurt. He was way further away from the time machine's eruption than Batman. We're only 14 minutes into this movie's runtime, and you already messed up your own time travel narrative. Oh, and there's a Batcave. And oh, the Batmobile made it to ancient Japan before How? How did this happen? I want answers, damn it!
I can't believe you didn't tell me, Selina.
I know, but I wanted to see the look of surprise on your face. See the look of surprise on your face. See the look of surprise on your face.
The Joker Samurai fire cannons at the cave, blowing it to smithereens. But Batman charges at the Joker's hired hands in the Batmobile. Across a sea of water. Heading straight past them and straight for the Joker's palace. As Batman makes his way through Joker's obstacles, suddenly the Casa de Joker... I'm sorry, I'm not Spanish. Begins to transform. Because Japan!
Harley, activate Arkham Castle!
You know, when I think Batman, I don't necessarily think Batman in ancient Japan. And if I did, for some reason, think Batman in ancient Japan, I wouldn't think Batman fighting Megazord. And oh, if you think this is wild, you ain't seen nothing yet. We're just getting started. As Batman races toward Joker, Voltron grabs the Batmobile and begins to crush it in its hands. But Batman busts out of it by self-destructing the Batmobile and ejecting into the Batwing. Batman continues his boss battle, shooting at the Transformer until Emperor Joker has it crush the Batwing's Batwings. But Batman manages to rid the wing of its wings and ride down on the Batcycle, the Batbike, well, whatever. You get the point. You know what it is. And I gotta say, I actually really like the way that this depicts the Batmobile. This is an interesting series of events, and seeing all of Batman's vehicles used in one action sequence, well, it's kind of cool. And for all the faults this movie has, its fighting scenes, its battles, and its actions aren't one of them. Or three of them. What you understand what I'm trying to say. When Batman finally gets to the Joker, he threatens to kill a mother and child. And I couldn't help here but get flashbacks to Batman Vengeance. I just kept saying out loud, it's Harley Quinn. It's Harley Quinn. It's Harley Quinn.
I'm gonna guess that it's Harley Quinn.
And oh, what do you know? It's Harley Quinn.
Poor Bats! He always falls for the same tricks.
Bane.
What? 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 Who invited Bane? I was so confused by this because Catwoman mentioned every other villain shown in this movie. Bane is the only one who just seems to show up out of nowhere. And when me and Alan watched this, he began to theorize that this actually was an Elseworld version of Bane. But if you look back at this one shot that's on the screen for 3 seconds, there's Bane, look, all the way in the corner there. Was I supposed to catch on to that? Because I didn't. the first 5 times I watched this movie. And while I think it's interesting that Bane would become a sumo, because A, he's a big strong dude, and B, he's always wore the mask of a luchador, so seeing him switch it over to being a sumo wrestler is a, I suppose, reasonable choice. I got a question. How did this dude go from buff to double stuffed in the course of 2 years? Did you spend your time in ancient Japan just trying the latest cuisines? I don't get it. Look, I'm not one to talk about body image, but that's unreasonable to me. Well, luckily Batman's not in too much trouble because his motorcycle then transforms into a robotic bat suit, and I hate how much I like this. I hate it. I hate it, because I like it. I mean, yes, it's improbable, but, you know, also it's entertaining, so... They also didn't bother giving him an English voice actor, so he just speaks in Japanese the whole time, with no subtitles. It's a good choice, guys. So Batman beats Bane by slamming him into a tree. And killing him, apparently, because that's the last time we ever see him in this movie. After managing to save the woman and fall into Joker's trap, Joker slides down on what looks to be a giant party horn. Joker, Harley, and Emperor Joker Samurai surround an incapacitated Batman.
Are you just going to lie there, or are you going to entertain me some more?
I'm not here for your entertainment. I have no regrets.
Unfortunately for the Smile Crew, a colony of bats swarm the area.
No, if only your friends were around to come by and say hi. I didn't mean it! I was being sarcastic!
Followed by...
What? Ninja Batman!
Yeah, what she said. What? The ninjas help Batman make it back to their ship, where Batman meets back up with Nightwing and Red Robin, and introduces the Dark Knight to the leader of the Bat Ninja Clan, Aeon. Aeon basically explains that Batman was prophesized, and the Bat Clan view him as a lord. When they finally make their way back to land, they're met by Robin and Monkey Chi.
Monkey Chi?
It's weird, but Robin's made friends with this monkey.
No. I'm drawing a line. I'm putting a line down in the stand. You guys are crossing it right here. You can't just write this off as being weird. This is unacceptable, is what this is. Never before in my life did I think, oh yeah, the next Batman movie that comes out, probably gonna have a monkey sidekick. No, I would have never thought that. Robin made friends with a monkey? There's a bat monkey now? Ace the Bat Hound wasn't enough for you? You had to make a monkey sidekick? Not to mention that this isn't any Robin. We're not talking about Dick Grayson. We're not talking about Tim Drake. We're talking about Damian Wayne, Bruce's son and the most unpleasant human being to ever be conceived in comic book history.
Is this supposed to be Damian?
That's Damian, yeah. And it's funny because he acts nothing like Damian.
Isn't he supposed to be the one that was trained by ninjas? Who?
Yes.
So why is Butters Robin?
Everyone knows it's Butters.
That's me.
This kid is a dick. Why is he befriending animals like he's Princess Goddamn Aurora? Who wrote this? I want names and addresses. I demand them. Well, as it turns out, Robin's monkey has an invitation for Batman from Gorilla Grodd. Bruce takes the gorilla up on his offer, meeting him and his monkey companions in a spa. And with the wrong music, you can easily change the context of the scene.
You might as well enjoy the waters too. Oh, that feels good.
Oh yeah, that's the movie I was actually looking for. Batman questions Grodd on why he invented the time machine, to which he responds, because he could. Solid logic thus far, makes sense to me. Grodd further explains that he was trying to send his competition somewhere far away so that he could take over Gotham for himself. I'm not paraphrasing, that's pretty much what he says verbatim. That was his master plan. Rather than kill his enemies, I'm just gonna send them 1,000 years in the... I know it's longer than 1,000 years. 1,000 years in the past. To Japan. Right, that makes sense. I mean, Batman was shot with a bullet that sent him back in time instead of killing him, so I mean, it makes sense just about as anything else. He also claims that it's Batman's interference seen at the beginning of the movie that's what's responsible for sending everyone to ancient Japan. So Batman...
Thanks for meddling.
The gorilla and the bat form a temporary alliance to get them back home. And of course... why rule over ancient Japan when you have one poverty-stricken, crime-ridden city? It makes perfect sense to me. Actually, come to think of it, what was Gorilla Grodd even doing in Gotham City? He lives in Gorilla City. He's not even really a Batman enemy. He's a Flash villain. What even is any of this? Why did they do this? Why is he bathing with monkeys in ancient Japan looking to take over Gotham? I don't get it. It just doesn't make sense. It does not compute. I don't get it. We're not even halfway through this movie and I'm tearing the last remaining follicles out of my head. The next day, Batman and Gorilla Grodd set sail until they come in contact with Joker's ship, to which the Bat Clan has them surrounded undersea. Harley and the Joker's devout followers begin spraying bullets in the surrounding waters, but oh, it was just a ruse. It's just a prank, bro. No one died, and Batman and Grodd aren't even in a rowboat. They're on a rowboat on top of a ship. It was all a diversion. But wait, if Joker and Harley were above the boat from where they were, wouldn't they be able to see the giant ship holding the rowboat underneath it? Like, I mean, at least vaguely? You know what? Never mind. I'm trying to find logic in Batman Ninja, so clearly I'm the one in the wrong right now. The ships collide with the Bat Family, Catwoman, Gorilla Grodd, and the Ninja Clan hopping on board and finding themselves a target. Catwoman goes after Harley, because, you know, they're both girls. The Bat Family and the Clan go after Joker's Samurai, and Batman and Grodd corner the Joker. And again, scenes like this are really where this movie excels. The action is consistently compelling.
That nigga is dead! D-U-D! You are dead! Dead! You are dead!
Joker and Harley are apprehended.
I never thought you'd need help from a talking monkey to catch me. I'm so embarrassed for you, Batman.
Only for Grodd to turn around and betray Batman by attempting to mind control his Ninja Clan. And my father always told me never to trust a talking monkey. I mean, of course, that was after a few bottles of Jack Daniels and rewatching Dr. Dolittle for the upteenth time, but I think this validates that blind talking primate prejudice. Unfortunately, things don't go exactly as planned, as the clan are so well trained that they have complete control over their bodies and minds. Grodd goes with Plan B, calling for Two-Face, who is apparently in a ship out in the distance, to start firing its cannons at the Bat Ship. The Bat Ship, that's something I really said, huh?
I can fly!
He can fly!
He can fly! He can talk!
Catwoman confronts Grodd with a collateral. She managed to get her paws on a piece of Grodd's time machine during her fight with Harley, and in exchange for it, she wants to be taken back to the future. And who wouldn't? It's a fantastic series. The Batboat... I called it a Batboat. The Batboat is set ablaze from the cannon strikes, as Joker and Harley somehow manage to sneak away. Batman rushes his followers off the boat to safety, but proclaims he's staying behind and making sure that Joker's not getting away. Kafka manages to seek the high ground, where he and Harley Quinn light an explosive barrel before sending it toward Batman.
Joker, no! What the fuck?
I'm gonna cut things off here for the time being, if only because there's only so much insanity. There's only so much that I could take in one sitting. I've seen this movie too many times, and we still haven't even scratched the surface of where it's gonna go. So I want to give you, the viewer, a bit of an intermission here, because while we've gotten glimpses of just how wild this movie can be, we haven't even scratched the surface. We're nowhere near the level that this movie takes things to. Consider this an intermission for your own mental health. I'm looking out for you. So rest easy, take a breather, and tune back in next Wednesday to see how batshit crazy this Batman adventure gets. Unless you're watching this in the future, in which case, yo, you guys got flying cars yet, or what's up? I want to reassure all of you that the wait is worth it, because if you think you've seen all the weird shit that this movie has to offer, and if you think you've seen enough, then you know how crazy this film is about to be.
Hang on to your hats, folks, because you ain't seen nothing yet.
I expect Batman to be a fucking ninja.
Hey there, I'm Infuso, and welcome back to taking a look at the most bizarre Batman ever put to video. And that's including my non-Batman, Batman-related project from back in the day. This still beats it. One thing I need to comment on is that this movie is only an hour and 25 minutes long. That's hardly even long enough for it to be considered a movie. And yet there's so much to comment on here that in this mere less than an hour and a half long movie that I've been forced to split my review into two. And not only that, I needed to take over a year-long break in between part 1 and part 2. And everyone trying to correct me in the comment section, I can hear you in the back of my mind already. I made that video a long time before it was posted. As a matter of fact, so much time has passed in between me making part 1 to now making part 2 that you may realize that my branding has changed. Yeah, back then I used to call myself the SIJW, and now, you know, just plain old Infuso. People were getting confused. Plus, when you enter a venue and somebody actually recognizes you from YouTube and calls out to you, social injustice warrior, it's gonna alter your perspective and make you rethink a couple of your life choices. But like I said in my first video, you ain't seen nothing yet. This movie is by far the strangest Batman story ever animated. And with that being said, let's pick this back up where we left off. And if you haven't watched part 1 of the video, or it's been a while for you, I suggest you go back and watch that. Because as a matter of fact, it's been so long for me that I had to go and do the same thing.
Now, where was I?
Penguin, whose eyebrows are shaped in the form of the bat symbol, for some reason. Was that even intentional?
I don't know!
Penguin, Poison Ivy, Deathstroke, Two-Face, and now Gorilla Grodd are all shown to have different power converter to Grodd's Quake engine. Until Grodd can gain access to them, they can't go back to the future.
Isn't eating a banana a little cliche?
Says the cat burglar in the cat costume.
I give it to you. You got me there.
Right.
I don't know if I mentioned it before, but the movie really excels in creative visuals. The cinematography of this movie is top-notch. It has a lot of interesting shots that help tell its tale, and I really enjoy this. I feel like the people who made this movie really cared about the story they were telling. They could have very easily used standard angles and just allowed the story to unfold in front of the viewer. You know, some really uncreative and unimaginative shit, like me whenever I tried to direct anything at all. It was just kind of point and shoot, just let stuff happen in front of you. But shots like this seem to have more purpose. Sometimes it's to tell us more about the characters without always spelling it out for us. Well, no time to continue analyzing the movie. I need to get back into ripping it apart.
You are a sad, strange little man.
Bruce wakes up 2 days after the explosion to find his old Bat-Cowl destroyed. Luckily, Aeon had one on hand.
Of course! No! No! No!
We don't do that here.
But he still decides to wear his messed up one anyway because, you know, it's symbolic. Batman begins monologuing in something that sounds like it'd make more sense as a narration or a voiceover. But here, he's just speaking aloud and talking about his present feelings as if they were past tense. As if he were in a moment in time that had long passed. Not one that is currently unraveling. Luckily, a new camera angle shows that Batman isn't in fact talking to himself, which is a good thing because he already has enough people in his rogues gallery that already do that. I'm looking at you, Harvey. Both of you. But still, why is he talking like this? Batman gives his team a pep talk before we switch animation styles. And this will not be the last time that happens in this movie. During this scene, each person figures out their role. Nightwing and Batman will learn the Bat-Clan's signature fighting style and teach them theirs. By combining styles, they'll be unstoppable. Red Robin... Yum!
Oh god, now these jokes are gonna start.
Red Robin, the hero, not the restaurant, will be consulting with the ancient Japanese blacksmiths.
The craftsmanship of the ninja blacksmiths is incredible. The precision of their weapons can't be matched even by our 21st century standards.
Are you sure about that?
So basically, Red Robin will get the weapons. That's his job. And Monkey Chi... Oh, Monkey Chi. Oh, wow. Monkey Chi is in this. How did I forget about Monkey Chi? Because I didn't want to remember. Following this, Robin rushes to Batman because Monkey Chi apparently has another message, this time from Red Hood. And where the hell is Monkey Chi getting all these goddamn messages?
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth!
Is this monkey a character or a plot device? Well, never mind that, because we're in for yet another animation change. The visuals are nice, but it feels really out of place here. Red Hood is looking quite different these days. Looking a lot less biker badass and much more like he's wearing Lady Gaga fetish gear. Yeah, go ahead. Tell me that's something you wouldn't expect to see in one of her music videos. Hood stumbles upon a small farm where he asks for a cup of water from a green-haired farmer and his blonde, pigtailed wife. Gee, I wonder who these people are. And hey, Jason, whoa, buddy, relax. You know, some people just say thank you. Red Hood viciously attacks the farmers and demands they show their true faces. And then he puts the boots to them. Medium style. But what is this? What is this freeze-frame B-roll in between punches? What is going on in this movie? I feel like I'm having a stroke while on acid. What even is this movie? Batman makes the save for the two familiar farmers and confronts Red Hood. And we're shown all this through the victim's eyes. Sort of. You know what, I'm just gonna look past this because like I said, we have a lot of insanity to fall into here, and we haven't even reached the rabbit hole yet, let alone fallen down it. We're kind of just following the White Rabbit and his trail of pellets. Fade to black, only to return with Batman questioning the green-haired man, who explains that he and his wife can't remember anything about their past. Batman apologizes for Red Hood's behavior, and as they're about to take their leave, the couple become ecstatic over seeing a sprout.
Don't let them fool you, Batman. They're up to their same old tricks.
I'm not so sure, Red Hood. He's not the Joker, at least not anymore. They both lost their memories in the explosion. There's no need to bother them.
The world's greatest detective, folks! As Batman and Red Hood exit, the excited couple's celebratory laughter turns into that of lunacy. And oh gee, I wonder if they're really cured. Have I mentioned that Batman sucks? How is it someone who is supposed to be as intelligent and as knowledgeable as you is constantly fooled when even all those around you, your trainees, your closest kin, your wards, they seem to know better? How's that possible? You are an incompetent icon. Rewind back to the original animation and fast forward to 1 month later. And Gorilla Grodd is ready to make his move to destroy his competitors and rebuild the Quake engine. And how is he gonna do that? Well, with a giant transformer, of course. But it's okay because Poison Ivy then responds by using her own giant transformer. And Penguin responds by, you guessed it, using his own giant transformer. And then Two-Face responds with using his own giant transformer. Oh, by the way, that reminds me. Did I mention that this movie takes place in Japan? I know I might have skimmed past it at some point. And now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, this is what I was referencing before about how insane this movie gets. But oh, just you wait. Just you wait, because this is just a warm-up. And hey, look, I don't want to throw out any claims. I'm not really into cancel culture here, but judging by that Terra storyline in the comments, I'm gonna demand that we see that young-looking woman's ID. Slade, I don't trust it. I don't trust it, man.
Yeah, he's kinda sus, though. Just a little bit sus.
And now that everybody's finally been introduced and we've got to hear them speak a little, after 47 minutes into the movie, I think now would be a good time to bring up the voice talents that are attached to this project. So let me quickly acknowledge the cast. Now, in most Batman projects, a lot of the time you get a plethora of recycled voice actors. And this is absolutely no exception. As here you have Roger Craig Smith, who played Batman in Arkham Origins, reprising his role. Gray DeLisi, who has previously played Catwoman in the Arkham series and also the Injustice games, steps back into the role yet again. She also played Black Canary in The Brave and the Bold, Vicky Vale in the Arkham series, Vulture in the Batman, Harley Quinn and Batgirl in the Lego Batman series, and Barbara Gordon and Magpie in Beware the Batman. So yeah, this isn't new territory for her. Tara Strong also returns as Harley Quinn and debuts as Poison Ivy. Tara's also previously played Harley in the Arkham series and the Injustice series. She also played Batgirl in Batman the Animated Series in its final season, as well as Vicky Vale in The Batman. Fred Tatasciore, by the way, I'm gonna get a lot of these names wrong. I'm not good at the whole, talk thing, so, I apologize for that. Fred Tatasciore plays Gorilla Grodd after previously playing Bane in the Arkham series, Ra's al Ghul in the Batman Begins video game, Bane in Lego Batman, Solomon Grundy in Arkham City, and Sergeant Rock in Brave and the Bold. Yuri Lowenthal plays both Robin and Red Hood after previously playing Red Hood in Batman Unlimited. Will Friedle, who is probably best known as Terry McGinnis in Batman Beyond, and also played Gearhead in The Batman and Blue Beetle in Batman Brave and the Bold, plays the role of Red Robin. Tom Kenny reprises his role as Penguin from the Batman, Lego Batman, and that Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles team-up. He's also played Deadshot, Plastic Man, and Babyface in the past. There's clearly a fair share of returning talent here, so this movie obviously cared enough to get the voices right. There's also new additions in Eric Bauza, who would play Two-Face, and Tony Hale of Arrested Development fame voices the Joker. And following this, he would go on to play Dr. Psycho in the Harley Quinn series. The voice cast is really, really good. Everybody sounds like their character. Now back to everything else. Back at the Bat Spa, I guess? They have that scene. You know that scene where the good guy gives exposition and explains his plans to the audience. The one where all his accomplices get one line of dialogue chiming in. The one you see in every CW superhero show? Yeah, that's the one. It ends with Batman deciding that he will no longer be Batman. He will be Sengoku Batman. Oh, great. Now some weeb is gonna make fun of me in the comments section for that pronunciation. It was bad enough when I had to read all those names, but now I'm gonna be lectured about anime. So let me just go out of my way to say this now. I will only accept your criticism if you are actually Japanese. And then, even then so, I will still more than probably likely ignore it anyway. So really, you're just wasting all our time. Elsewhere, the villains clash in what looks to be the funniest round of Rock'em Sock'em robots. Hey, I'm not caught up. Can someone tell me what season of Power Rangers this is? I mean, what in the name of Pacific Rim is going on here? Have I mentioned before that this movie is Japanese? In all seriousness, I'd be lying if I said I didn't enjoy all this. I mean, yeah, it's mindless entertainment, but it's entertaining mindless entertainment. I know a lot of you guys are getting confused because I'm making a lot of sarcastic comments, but that's kind of what I do here. It's a big part of the channel, so I'm going to apologize in advance. But all joking aside, I actually don't hate this movie. I like it. It's different, it's interesting, it's enjoyable. Is it the Batman I know? No, absolutely not. Do I think there's a lot of things that are really strange about the movie? Yes, absolutely. Still like it though. Aeon and the Bat Clan go after the opposing armies, leaving Batman and company to take on the Transformers Tokyo. The bots battle it out amongst themselves, until Gorilla Grodd essentially possesses Gotham's bigwig villains into doing his bidding, forcing them to combine their robots to join with his. And if that doesn't make any sense to you, it's okay. Because Grodd's got some throwaway exposition that will explain it all away. It's gonna be fine. Point is, this is Batman in ancient Japan fighting an army of Gundams. Really, just don't think too much about it. Grodd also reveals that he isn't looking to get back home. He set his sights on ruling all of ancient Japan. And finally, a monkey with a mind. This is what I've been saying from the get-go. I said it from the beginning, and nobody wanted to listen to me. Why bother taking over one shitty city when you can control all of Japan? Of course he would want to rule over all of Japan. Who wants that rat-infested, sewer crocodile-having, giant bat-inhabited shithole that's Gotham? Well, like, in comparison, why would that even make sense? But before Grodd's dream of another Planet of the Apes sequel is about to take place,
I'm going to rule this country and turn it into a kingdom of monkeys and rewrite the history of the world!
What? No.
The Joker and Harley reemerge. Oh, okay. Joker all of a sudden took over the entire plot and becomes the big bad at the end. Where have I seen this before other than in every single Arkham game that has ever been created? And also a shitload of comic books, and episodes of TV shows, and other animated movies. This is a reoccurring thing. As Joker and Harley kick Cat and Grodd out of his own walking palace, they're of course rescued by the Bat-Kazuzo. The Bat-Kazuko. With Batman rescuing Grodd, and leaving Red Hood to save Catwoman. Which is strange because you'd think the man would be more intent on rescuing his on-again, off-again, on-again, off-again girlfriend instead of saving the giant ape that's trying to kill you. But you know, priorities. Look, Bruce, if you wanted to see other people, you just could have said it. I mean, damn, man, I understand that the myth is that cats always land on their feet, but she's not actually a cat. She's a cat woman.
How could you? I'm a woman.
I'm sorry,
I mean, what were you thinking? Would you figure, oh, hey, she's got another 8 lives left, what's one down? That's also not true! The robots combine into one, and something Japan. I don't know. I'm exhausted. I don't know. I just can't anymore. This movie has exhausted me. I'm ready to move on. I'm doing this for all of you. This is not for me anymore. I am not enjoying this. I'm just ready to move on to the next one. And I'm not talking about the next video, I'm talking about the next life. I'm ready to go.
Oh, I'm coming. I'm done here. I fulfilled my purpose. I ain't need to see no more shit down here.
Joker explodes stuff, Grodd saves the monkey before tapping out of the fight, but not before handing down the Pied Piper's fiddle, which he uses to control his army of monkeys. Write it down, put that on a t-shirt, that was actually something that I had said. Grodd's legion of primates launch onto and attack the Joker's mech. And now the Bat Monkey sidekick has a love interest. And as absurd of a thing that is to say, hang on to your bat masks, cause again, you still ain't seen nothing yet. We're on our way, don't worry. They begin playing a different tune on Squidward's clarinet, commanding the monkeys to form into one giant monkey, and you know what? Stop! Stop it! There is no reason that in a review of a Batman movie that I should be able to say monkey as much as I have during this whole video. Bats? Obviously. Cats? Of course. Crocodiles? Okay. But monkey should not come up nearly as much as it has during this Batman movie.
Monkey!
Holy crap, I need to check my blood pressure. I am not in a good place right now.
Enough monkeying around!
The giant joke launches attacks at the plus-size Curious George that stands before it. But oh shit, Dustin checks in makes the man who laughs check out. The Bat family head over to take down their fallen foe, but the Joker rises to the occasion and quite literally roasts his competition. Several monkeys undoubtedly die. I don't care what you say, even if this is that kind of movie, they dead. But to the rescue come bats. No, not Batman. Just bats. Just a shitload of bats. The bats, of course, form one giant bat to protect their monkey brethren. The monkey-made monkey and the bat-made bat combine to form a giant Batman. Because of course they do. Oh, I'm sorry, I must have misspoke earlier when I asked what episode of Power Rangers was this from. What I should have asked was, what episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! Was this? Because clearly, this is just straight up Palmerization. I don't understand how monkeys plus bats equal Batman, but to be fair, I failed math as a kid. But come to think of it, I was pretty good at science, and this shit just doesn't seem right to me. Props to the movie, by the way, for using first appearance Batman. It's a nice little nod. Even if I have no idea who they're nodding their heads at. The giant monkey bat is now somehow able to withstand bursts of flames, and manages to punch the Bat family into Joker's collapsing castle. Now look, there's a lot of action that takes place here. I'm not going to break it down and give you play-by-play, because honestly, I feel like that would cheapen the movie for you and that experience, so I'm not going to do all that. Let me just give you the cliff notes right quick. Batman fights the Joker, Nightwing takes on Penguin, Red Hood goes after Deathstroke, Red Robin clashes with Two-Face, Robin battles Poison Ivy, and of course, Harley and Catwoman have a score to settle. During this, Joker gives some exposition as how he managed to convince Batman he was now sane. But, like, honestly, who cares? It's not needed considering the man has fallen for these types of tricks before. I think the thing that annoys me the most about Batman is that he doesn't seem to fall for these types of tricks with any other villain. Except for Catwoman. Maybe he just has a soft spot for clowns and cats. I don't know, it's just wildly inconsistent. Like I said, a lot of action ensues.
Take your medicine, kitty kitty, and say goodnight.
The monkeys and the bats infiltrate the moving tower and begin to systematically break it down. And on the roof of Optimus Prime, the final battle ensues. And after some pretty impressive looking back and forth, it looks like the Joker has finally done the impossible.
And so it's finally over, Batman.
But then the real impossible happens, because that Batman in samurai gear was no Batman at all. He was just bats. There's a bunch of fucking bats. And then Batman soars into the sky and shows his love for Naruto. And oh, that's it. That's the line. The movie said its own title. Roll credits. That's it. I'm done. I'm out of here. My contract says as soon as that happens, I am allowed to leave. That is it. But I'll be nice and I'll go ahead and give you the ending anyway. They reenact that scene from The Dark Knight. Batman saves the day. They return to their time period. And then there's a mid-credits scene where, oh look, that's kind of cute. And also entirely impractical, but alright. And that was Batman Ninja. Even though I think more accurately it should be called Batman Samurai. Or maybe if you wanted to add the ninja element, Batman Samurai Ninja, I don't know. But Batman Ninja just doesn't seem like a fully fleshed out title. That's just my opinion. If you haven't seen Batman Ninja, then go out and see Batman Ninja. Because it needs to be seen to be believed. You know, if you can see it, because, you know, ninja. My words truly can't do it justice. You need to witness and experience this with your own 3 eyes. If I said it before, I'll say it again. Batman Ninja is batshit crazy. And like a minor character from CatDog would say, I love it. Yeah, I don't know how many people on my subscribers list are actually going to remember that, but I do, for some reason, so. With that being said, I thank y'all for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.
This is why Superman works alone.
Hey there, it's me, your least favorite YouTuber, Infuso. And in the past on this channel, I've talked to you about my disliking for the first Batman movie, my love for its follow-up, Batman Returns, and my nostalgia for its threequel, Batman Forever. Links in the bio. But now here today, I'm going to talk to you about the day Batman died.
This is how it happened. This is how the Batman died.
The answer that shocks probably absolutely nobody. The day Batman died is the day they released Batman and Robin. If you're a fan of this channel, it should come as no shock to you, as I've already had a bad movie night on here watching it with some friends. And if you're a fan of Batman, it should come as no shock to you, because, well, it's probably your opinion too. Now, some of you who are already familiar with my The Day It Died series may be thinking to yourself, wait a second, V, this video's different. And admittedly, yeah, maybe it is. But if the bat boot fits...
Say that again.
If the boot fits.
You see, there's no title that fits better than The Day Batman Died for a video like this. Because this movie is quite literally the thing that successfully killed the Burton-Schumacher Batman franchise. And not only did it accomplish that, but it almost killed Batman. Like, altogether. So many planned sequels and reboots were scrapped over the years. Because they believed that Batman was no longer bankable. Because of this movie. Batman had become a remnant of a better left forgotten era. It took all of 8 years for another Batman movie to be made. In today's rapid reboots and the rise of superhero significance in pop culture, that is unthinkable. We go from one franchise to another. The second somebody steps down for a role, there's already a line for somebody to step back in. We went from Tobey Maguire to Andrew Garfield to Tom Holland right quick. There was like no recovery time. But for nearly a decade, Batman fans went without another outing. All because of the bat bomb that is Batman and Robin. So now that the mystery is up and out of the way, and we know the when, let's talk about the why. We all know by now that Batman shouldn't, and quite frankly shan't, murder. If only the people who put this movie together knew that, before they blatantly assassinated a whole heap of Batman characters on screen. Both Batman and Bruce Wayne have no discernible or describable personality. George Clooney made the very bold choice of taking the studio's money and doing next to no work in return. He was essentially paid for attendance. But to be fair, if we're talking about trying to follow this quadrilogy in general, going from Michael Keaton to Val Kilmer to George Clooney is enough to give anyone's brain whiplash. Now you can say what you want about replacing Keaton with Val Kilmer, but at least Val Kilmer tried. You understood the duality of the character, the man and the Batman. There was some sense of depth. Even if it wasn't always spoken, it was usually shown. George Clooney was just there. He was definitely in this movie, that much I can say, but that's literally the beginning and end of it. And that's really all I can say about his time in the role. This man went from tortured to torturous to watch. There's a reason this guy is the most hated Batman in the history of Batman. He was never really Batman. He was just some dude in a Batman costume for 2 hours. He fails in every aspect of the character. What he says almost always seems disingenuous. There's nothing heartfelt coming out of his mouth. Nothing feels natural.
Alfred's sick.
Alfred's not sick. He's dying.
I can't believe it.
I know.
I don't care if you gave him Keaton's black turtleneck and glasses. This is not my Batman. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna go ahead and say this is nobody's Batman. The best thing to come out of George Clooney's time in the role was George Clooney's sense of humor about George Clooney's time in the role. Join me, if you will, a brief journey through the years, looking back at George Clooney reflecting on his time as Batman. Feel free to timestamp the stages of grief.
Remember when George Clooney was Batman?
What if I don't want to remember?
I did one film, Batman and Robin, which was a yes. Thank you. Which was a disaster.
So you really couldn't say no to being the new Batman, could you?
Quite honestly, when I got Batman and Robin, I was just an actor getting an acting job.
So I asked.
You won't let me watch it.
No. He won't let you watch it.
There's certain films I just go. I'm afraid I want my wife to have some respect for me.
The fact is, I'm still. The jury's still out on whether or not I'm going to make it in feature films or not.
And I was excited to play Batman.
It's Batman. Bottom line is, I get to be Batman. This is an opportunity for me to be in a film that may not, but may end up being very successful. And if it is, then I get to be part of that.
And what I realized after that was that I was going to be held responsible for the movie itself, not just for my performance.
Did you see him in that film? It would just be shots of me in a rubber suit and a Batman outfit. But, I thought at the time this was going to be a very good career move. It wasn't. Since my Batman, I was disinvited from Comic-Con for 20 years.
I wasn't a very good Batman. I'm the first one to say it.
I screwed it up so badly, I'm not allowed to weigh in on any of those subject matters anymore.
I actually thought I destroyed the franchise until they brought it back. Somebody else brought it back years later and changed it.
So does that mean The Flash hasn't asked you to be in?
Well, the truth is I didn't want to do it. No, they didn't ask me.
You don't want to see the George Clooney version of Batman and Robin?
I'd have to get sandpaper and take down my nipples, But then other than that, I think I'd be ready for it.
Didn't you apologize to the crowd at Comic-Con for Batman and Robin?
I always apologize for Batman.
When you destroy a franchise the way I did, usually they look the other way when the Flash comes by.
I met Adam West back there just now, and I was like, hey, I'm really sorry. And he goes, give me a fist bump. And I was like, yeah, just hit me.
Nipples, though?
I did have great nipples.
And Robin didn't fare too much better either. I know not everybody loves Chris O'Donnell's time as Robin in Batman Forever, and I will continue to defend that guy until I'm blue in the face. Like this guy. But in this movie, there's absolutely no defending him. The last movie seemed to want to age up the character, to have him be a young man as opposed to a growing boy. He's depicted as being in his later teens and maybe being a little bit more mature than the Robins that we're used to. So does someone want to explain to me why in this movie, that's supposed to take place a few years after the last one, they have him acting more like a child? Here, Robin is prone to throwing hissy fits whenever he doesn't get his way.
Don't push me right now.
Or what? No one can capture Ivy but the big bad bat? Yeah, right. You just can't stand that maybe she wanted me instead of you. You just couldn't stand that she was gonna kiss me and not you. Couldn't stand that something was gonna be mine and not yours, could you? That's why you stopped us from kissing, because if you can't have her, no one can. Ivy's right. I don't need your help. Look, here's what I know. She loves me and not you, and it's driving you crazy. It's your house, it's your rules. I mean, it's your way or the highway. It's Batman and Robin, not Robin and Batman. And I'm sick of it. Look, I want a Robin signal in the sky, all right? I'm tired of living in your shadow.
Here, he lashes out at everyone, especially Batman. It's usually because he feels like he's being treated as a sidekick. But, hey, newsflash, Boy Wonder, you are a sidekick. I don't care that they prematurely gave you your Nightwing outfit for this. You are Robin, Batman's sidekick. This behavior isn't fitting of any of the children that had worn the cape in the comics. So it's definitely not ideal for the grown-ass man wearing it here. They took all the problems with O'Donnell's previous depiction of the character, and they exasperated them, whilst completely forgetting any trait that made the character likable. And now that I said it out loud, I really think this performance alone is pretty symbolic of this entire movie. Commissioner Gordon is once again in this movie, and once again, he does absolutely nothing.
I am the commissioner of the police. I have the keys right here in my pocket.
The thing is, at least in the last films, he had some sense of dignity. The character did seem to be invested in his job, and he was depicted as being very good at it. As he should be, because he's the commissioner. He wasn't seen a whole lot, but when he was, it was always implied that he was working on taking down crime on his end of things. He and Batman were working on the same page, just separately in different paragraphs. But here, for some reason, they decided to turn him into Chief O'Hara, the goofy, laughable, ineffective cop who would be helpless without Batman. The law enforcement that only enforced just how useless he truly was. It's just a very sad and, for lack of a better word, wrong interpretation of the finest of Gotham's finest. Jim Gordon is a man so attached to his work that he's practically married to it. He has a commitment to cleaning up crime. It's not just a job for him, it's a lifestyle. But here, the guy is just a buffoon. A really, really sad, pathetic buffoon. Let's see some Jim Deserve Better in the comments, guys. But the biggest travesty here isn't the depiction of the characters past movies already established, it's the depiction of the ones that they just introduced. What was done to Mr. Freeze is completely unforgivable. Going into this, it was decided to use his origin story from the animated series. A heartbreaking tale of a scientist who froze his wife to keep her alive while desperately searching for a cure to her disease. This story completely rewrote the Mr. Freeze character forever. This is the version of the character that is almost always adapted to any Batman continuity that followed the animated series. It turned the character into almost an anti-hero. A villain who did bad things, but did them for a good cause. A man who didn't revel in evil, but instead sought out to save the ones he loved through, albeit nefarious means. This movie took that story and made it a brief backdrop. It's present here, it's the character's motivation, but what's severely missing is the humanity that comes with such a plight. We never see Mr. Freeze as a man, he's too busy being a cartoon. Which is ironic when we're talking about a live-action movie, yet the cartoon treated itself much more like a real event. We don't see the sorrow, the heartbreak, the pain the character feels, because his scheduled screen time's already taken up with him making shitty ice punts and hamming it up. He's all too thrilled about his awful ways. I think this one hurts the most because it feels wildly out of character. Arnold Schwarzenegger's performance completely goes against his nature. This conflicts with the character in general, but it seems to conflict even with its own lore. For example, there's a scene where Mr. Freeze chastises Batman, happily telling him,
"Your emotions make you weak. That's why this day's mine."
Yet he's a character that's driven entirely by emotion.
My passion, thoughts for my pride alone.
The love of his wife and the heartbreak he has from losing her. This is what drives Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze, despite his cold nature, is actually a warm-hearted individual. He's driven by his own compassion and love. I mean, we're not talking about the Terminator here. You are made up of emotion.
You lie!
Plus, to see him so excited about being bad, it's just kind of... I'm losing words here, but it's bad. It's all I guess. It's bad. It's really bad.
I know this is hard for you, but winter is coming. We know what's coming with it.
Winter has come at last. Allow me to break the ice. The Iceman cometh. You are not sending me to the cooler. What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age! Can you be cold, Batman? Cool party. Always winterize your pipes. Let's kick some ice.
I can understand a pun here and there, because that even happened in the animated series, but they weren't as constant, and they certainly aren't as consistently terrible.
The monster who took you from me will soon learn that revenge is a dish best served cold.
But in this movie, it's like the guy's going out of his way to make a joke for an audience of 0.
I'm afraid that my condition has left me cold to your pleas of mercy. All right, everyone. Chill. Chill.
To me, this version of Mr. Freeze is a complete slap in the face to his whole arc. And still to this day, we've yet to see the Iceman return to the big screen.
Ooh. Talk about your cold shoulder.
And I sure hope that changes soon. But don't worry, he's in good company. Because there's plenty of characters this movie did an injustice to. Bane is turned into a brute. I mean, the guy has always had muscle, but now they completely neglect his brain. I can't imagine that Joel Schumacher did any research into the character outside of literally just looking at a comic book cover. Probably took one look and said, oh yeah, that's muscle guy, yeah, that's what he is. Not only does the monster not have a high IQ, but he doesn't even have an IQ to speak of. He is now only capable of repeating 1 to 2 words per sentence, and that is it.
Enough monkey business. We've got work to do.
Monkey work.
Guy just comes off like a jacked up Pokemon. there's not that much to say about him, because he really doesn't have a whole lot to say himself. So if you ever wondered what it'd be like to have a parrot on steroids, don't you worry, this movie finally answers that question. Then you have Batgirl. As opposed to having the character be Commissioner Gordon's kid, she's now Alfred's niece. I guess I could almost understand the reasoning behind it, considering how irrelevant the Commissioner is in these movies. He barely has a role, and when he is present, he's usually the butt of the jokes. So maybe having her be his daughter would be a mistake, just for this continuity. But having her be Alfred's niece is just as questionable. First off, you have Alicia Silverstone playing the character, an actress who, no offense, doesn't have the greatest range. But she's supposed to be the very British Michael Gough's niece, yet there isn't even the slightest hint at a British accent.
As if.
Instead of giving her an accent, replacing it is an insistence that she's British because she just came back from her school in England. So yeah, that's kind of a tough sell. I don't even necessarily think Alicia did a bad job here. She just didn't do her bat job. Oh god, the puns. What has this movie done to my brain?
You're about to become compost.
No sign of the snowman.
Maybe he melted. Using feminine wiles to get what you want, trading on your looks. Read a book, sister. That passive-aggressive number went out long ago.
She wasn't the Batgirl we wanted. And she sure as hell wasn't the Batgirl we needed either. For the work that she was given to do, I think that she did do a decent job. I mean, I think at the very least there was some chemistry between her and her would-be love interest, Chris O'Donnell. That's a point in this movie's favor. But yeah, she's definitely not my favorite part of the movie. And yet, she's still far from my least favorite part also, so I guess just let's call it even. Poison Ivy is, well, she is something else. There are aspects to this version of the character that I actually like. Aesthetically, I think the get-up's pretty good. Uma Thurman has the right sounding voice and inflection for the role. And when she's not completely hamming it up, I think she does an almost decent job. I kind of feel the same way about her as I feel about Tommy Lee Jones' Two-Face. It could have been good, and in some scenes it is, but for the most part, it is
not good.
Like I said, she has her moments. But the problem is that these moments are so far and few in between. For the most part, she's absolutely over the top.
Mammals. A day of reckoning is coming. That's right.
And now you corrupt my research into some maniacal scheme for world domination?
I am nature's arm. Her spirit. Her will. Hell, I am Mother Nature. Forget the stars. Look here at the earth. Our mother, our womb. She deserves your loyalty and protection.
Well, I, my most unabominable snowman, have been impressed by you. In fact, I propose a pairing.
The same plants and flowers that saw you crawl from the primordial soup will reclaim this planet, and there will be no one to protect you.
Uma Thurman comes off more like a Power Rangers villain. She has no subtlety and she's evil in the goofiest ways imaginable. She could even give Credence a run for her money. At best, it's laughably bad. And at worst, it's cringe-inducingly awful. These characters in general seem to exist as an extension of the movie itself, not as actual characters. That might have been confusing. Hold on, let me try again. They're all the same annoyingly hokey, passé character in different gear. Each and every one of them. Except for Alfred. Alfred is an angel. Everyone else, though, it's like the same character, different bat nipples. What I'm trying to say is that for the most part, these characters all act the same. They don't really have their own unique identity. There aren't that many personality traits that separate these characters. They're just all bound by the movie itself. It's like Seinfeld. But, terrible. Batman Forever was definitely a departure from Batman and Batman Returns. But Batman and Robin feels like a significant departure from Batman Forever. Forever changed the tone of the series, and it sort of acted as a transitional shift between the final vision of Tim Burton and the first vision of Joel Schumacher. At times, Forever felt like it was attempting to keep the darker psychological themes of the first two films, but soften it up and make it more digestible for a younger audience. It was a PG version of Burton's take on the character. Batman and Robin, on the other hand, felt like it took the PG aspect from the last movie, and that's it, nothing else. When making this movie, it was almost like going into it, they decided to highlight everything that worked in Batman Forever and eradicate everything that didn't.
Strike that. Reverse it.
The heart that was present in Batman Forever, even through its worst and dumbest moments, was all but gone from here. Replaced by a 2-hour commercial to sell some action figures. I mean, look at it. They didn't even try to hide it.
I'm a lover, not a fighter. That's why every Poison Ivy action figure comes complete with him.
Admittedly, it did work, yes, because I owned all of these when I was a kid. But as an adult, I'm wagging my finger and shaking my head at you. Now, at the same time, that would be weird. I don't know what message I'd be sending by doing that. But yeah, it was effective. Everyone who's heard about the behind the scenes knows that Joel Schumacher was told to make the movie more, and this is an actual word that was used, toyetic. It worked, because I hated this movie as a kid, and I still collected all the figures in this lineup. What I'm trying to say is that you can see why the Batman '89 comic book series separates itself from this half of the continuity. Because it sucks! But also because the idea of somehow trying to take the dark, gritty, and borderline grungy world of Tim Burton's Batman and tie it into this is unfathomable. That would be like trying to link the 1960s Adam West series to The Dark Knight. These are clearly very different interpretations of the character. This movie, which is supposed to follow the gothic revival of the hero known as The Dark Knight, has much more in common with the live-action cartoon of the Caped Crusader that came out in the 1960s. The nonsensical camp, the goofy one-liners, the jokes even a dad joke telling dad wouldn't tell, the generic villain plans that make no sense whatsoever, the hamily overacted performances by the actors, the sound effects, the goofy gags, the strange plots, the unconventional team-ups. This wasn't 90s audience's Batman. This was their parents' Batman. Just brought into the 90s. It's really hard for me to compare Batman and Robin to Batman Forever, but trying to compare and connect it to Batman or Batman Returns is next to impossible. I can't get my head around it. I think what bums me out the most about this is that quite often this movie is the first one to get brought up when people are talking about Joel Schumacher, as if this was his magnum opus. Those familiar with Schumacher's work outside of the Batman franchise would be able to tell you that this isn't his regular quality. Like Tim Burton, Schumacher's best known for his darker-toned adventures. If you need proof, look no further than The Lost Boys. I think what's most evident in this movie is it was, for the lack of a better word, a very corporate movie. The other Batman films in this lineup felt like they had purpose outside of a paycheck. It felt like those in charge of making these movies really wanted to make these movies. They were passionate about what the final product would look like. Here, I don't feel that same passion. It feels like someone rushing to turn in their first draft and immediately calling it their final draft. When looking back at Batman and Robin, it's clear that not a lot of time or thought was put into any aspect of this movie. In the end, it was charmless, it was heartless, those making it were brainless. I would say that it's less of a movie than the other Batman films. The dialogue in the movie is awful. When it's not trying and failing to make jokes, it's succeeding as living up as a punchline.
Chicks dig the car.
This is why Superman works alone.
His name is Bane.
A laundry service that delivers. Wow.
Nice catch.
You break it, you buy it.
I'm running on empty. I need the diamonds from my hideout.
I'll help you grab your rocks.
Good night.
What are you, about a 50 big and tall?
No, I always go a size smaller. Makes me look slimmer.
Well, I can respect your opinion. Sadly, I'm not good at rejection. I'm afraid you'll have to die.
Well, I'm totally over, all right? Positively.
Me too, definitely. Great stems, though.
Buds, too.
Yeah, those are nice.
That's my exit cue.
This is a literal excerpt from the original script. These are lines that are in the movie. Now, I'm having an AI read them to you, so they may come off as a little bit robotic, but I assure you, nobody has the ability to make any of these lines sound human nonetheless.
I still have high hopes for the animal-plant crossbreedings. If I can only find the correct dose of venom, These plants will be able to fight back like animals. I will have given flora a chance against the thoughtless ravages of man. Personal note, my work would proceed faster if Dr. Woodrue weren't always whisking my venom samples back to his mysterious Gilgamesh wing. Why won't he let me into his lab? What is he doing in there?
There are a few thought-provoking conversations and revelations in this movie.
The Flying Graysons were a team. We had to trust each person to do his job. That's what being partners is all about. Sometimes counting on someone else is the only way you win.
Have you ever regretted your life working here? Looking after heroes? No, sir. My only regret is that I was never able to be out there with you. Death and chance stole your parents. But rather than become a victim, you have done everything in your power to control the fates.
But they get immediately skimmed over, probably because of how out of place they feel here. The ridiculous, insane, over-the-top performances of Uma Thurman and John Glover is proof that nobody is safe in this movie. It doesn't matter how talented the cast was. The movie made it impossible for anyone to properly perform. Chris O'Donnell, who I thought did a pretty serviceable job in the last movie, has completely lost whatever likability he once had. One movie later, he went from a defiant, adventurous kid to a whiny man-child. And for all these effortful performances that chew up the scenery, also came an effortless performance in the form of George Clooney as Bruce Wayne. I get how on paper such a casting might be merited. George Clooney was a charming, good-looking, rich bachelor. Based on that alone, it sounds like he's tailor-made to play Bruce Wayne. But seeing it in execution might make you wish whoever casted him would be executed. Clooney gives the most bland, emotionless, uncaring performance of his career. He doesn't come off as Batman or Bruce Wayne. Hell, come to think of it, he doesn't really come off as George Clooney. He carried himself with all of the professionalism and attentiveness as modern-day Bruce Willis would have.
With the girl?
Who is this?
Oh, my apologies.
This dude straight up doesn't give a flying bat's ass about this movie. But hey, at least Arnold Schwarzenegger looks like he's having fun. But to be fair, that might just be because he's getting a shitload of cash to appear almost only exclusively in close-ups, while some no-name gets paid less than half of what he gets paid to do most of his shots. One thing that always bugged me is how this movie contradicts the entire established continuity, even the movie that came before it. Batman and Robin portrays its titular character's relationship as being that of a big brother, little brother type of dynamic. But the movie that came before it clearly depicted it as a father and son type of ordeal, which is pretty much what they do in the comics as well. So, like everything else in this movie, that just doesn't feel right. And seeing the two compete for the love of a pretty redhead was giving me some unintentional PTSD that I don't ever want to relive. I didn't like it then, I don't like it now, I'll never like it ever. There's a few other problems I have with Batman and Robin too, some of which I don't often hear get brought up, but that's probably because by comparison to everything else that's wrong with the movie, it just seems inconsequential. There's a whole subplot devoted to Bruce Wayne potentially tying the knot, settling down and becoming a married man, but this relationship and his love interest is given next to no screen time. You could easily cut it out of the movie altogether, and it doesn't change the narrative whatsoever. She doesn't do anything. She doesn't add anything to the main plot. She doesn't really have a role, except on paper. Nothing. When the movie starts, the two are already together. We have no idea about how or when they met, or how long they've been together, what their relationship is like, and by the end of it, none of that changes. We learn nothing about Julie Madison. As a matter of fact, I'll go ahead and say, a lot of you listening to this are probably just hearing that name for the first time, even if you've seen the movie. It is a completely forgettable and unneeded aspect to this film as a whole. We know nothing about them as a couple, and we know nothing about her in general. But why should anybody be surprised? They had Bruce break up with each of his girlfriends in between movies with a little rhyme or reason, so why not just have him start dating somebody before they hit record? It's just weird that not only is marriage a thing for some reason in this movie, but it's marriage to a character that we know nothing about. She's given far less time than Vicky Vale, Catwoman, and Dr. Chase Meridian. Let me put it to you like this. Julie just barely gets more lines than Nora Freeze. And she's frozen the whole movie. She doesn't speak. I also take issue to the fact that this whole movie wants to focus on Batman and Robin bitching and bickering like an old couple, because we barely did anything to establish them as a team at all. In the last movie, we end with them pairing up. And then in this movie, we start with them already having a falling out? Well, what's the point? Another thing that drives me crazy is the naming convention of these movies. Makes absolutely no sense. You got Batman, a movie about Batman, so fair enough. Batman Returns. Where'd he go? Where'd he go? I have no idea. He was there the whole time. By Gotham's own admission. I don't... Where's he returning from? I mean, I guess to us, sure, Batman is returning to the movie theaters, so... You know, I'll give you a pass, but... You're walking on thin ice, and that is not an intentional pun. You named the movie about Batman and Robin Batman Forever. Why? And then you named the movie about the Bat family expanding. This feeling of the Batman legacy continuing what you can only expect to be forever. And you name it Batman and Robin? You literally just added a third to your team, turning the dynamic duo into the terrible trio. And the movie's named Batman and Robin? What, Batgirl just gets no love? You're really giving merit to the whole women working just as hard as men and getting none of the credit argument. I mean, she literally saved the titular characters in the conclusion. Why is it Batman and Robin? We got Robin over here bitching about not getting a Robin signal, but poor Batgirl couldn't even get her name credited. Now here's something I need to address. The thing that's obviously on all of our minds when we watch these movies. The bat nipples.
Are the nipples still there?
Of course. It's a Joel Schumacher film. Everybody has nipples.
According to director Joel Schumacher, the suits were redesigned to look like that of gladiators, of Spartans. And this was to show the masculinity of Batman and Robin. But, Joel, I believe that as much as I believe that Quentin Tarantino includes feet in all of his movies because it's integral to his art. We all know why you did it. Just be honest. These look a little bit too fetishy for my taste. It's weird to think that there have been more accurate costumes in, other media, and yet these costumes are the ones that look like they were stolen straight off of another media's shoot. But if I'm being real, nipples and cod pieces aside, these suits are kind of dope. Objectively speaking, come on. I mean, you just put some duct tape on those nipples and you're good to go. Especially that Nightwing costume.
I have a question for you. Do you still have the Robin suit from the Batman and Robin days?
I do.
I would buy that. I want a suit that looks like that.
Yeah, that's a little strange.
Well, that's what I'm into.
Also, how does gravity work in these movies?
How do you explain that?
One last thing. How you gonna have Seal make Kiss from a Rose for Batman Forever? A movie that song has zero place in? When it much better suits this movie? Kiss from a Rose? You have Poison Ivy out here making men fall in love with her through pheromones, giving life-ending poisonous kisses, and playing a pivotal role in the plot. And she's referred to as a flower the whole movie. She even almost leads to the breakup of Gotham's protectors. Yet the movie ends with both men finding or realizing the love they have in their lives. Not with each other, surprisingly, which is a letdown. I think we all can agree that that is the only logical closure point here.
You get some real issues with women, you know that?
The song would have been perfect for this movie. I mean, it wouldn't have made it any better, mind you, but it would have made sense. And that would at least be one thing about this movie that makes sense. Sorry, this shit keeps me up at night. Because of all that and much more, that is the day Batman died. For a very long time. But luckily for us, comic book characters never stay dead. And like the death of Superman, Batman would return. Again. Before I go and close this video out, I do first want to focus on the things I liked about this movie. And while it is a short list, you know, at least it is a list. If there's anything I can credit to this movie, anything at all, aside from successfully selling toys, it's the decision they made to increase Alfred's role. Michael Gaff is one of only 2 actors who had been with the series from its inception with Michael Keaton, all the way to its sad end with George Clooney. So it was nice to see him get more screen time and have a portion of the plot focus on him. The scenes with him in this movie always make me smile. They're some of the sweetest and most genuine feeling moments in all of these movies.
Well, not all heroes wear masks.
His performance is as great as it's ever been, and the fact that more time is devoted to him, his character, and he actually somewhat factors into the plot, makes his time with the franchise feel that much more justified. Alfred is a very bright light in the seemingly endless darkness that is Batman and Robin. He's so on point, and he never once throughout the entire series run falls prey to bad writing. God bless Michael Gaff. And what I also need to credit this movie with is that for as bad as it is, and believe me, it is bad, it is a terrible, god-awful attempt at filmmaking, but I've probably rewatched this one more times than any other Batman film. It's completely awful, but it's still awfully entertaining. As a kid, I didn't like this movie, but I did have fun with it, and now as an adult watching it, I love it. But definitely not for the reasons that were intended. I like Batman and Robin for the same reason I like movies like The Room. And in a weird way, I kind of think that that's an achievement in of itself. The worst thing you can ever do as a content creator is make something forgettable. Make something that nobody cares about. But no one is forgetting Batman and Robin. Not you, not me, not the ghost of Joel Schumacher. Nobody who has ever witnessed this batastrophe will ever forget its existence. And I kind of think that's a little bit beautiful. Is it a good movie? No, absolutely not. But it's so bad that, in its own special way, it's kind of good. But it's good for being bad. You can turn this movie on at get-togethers and gather your friends up and still have a lot of fun watching it.
Can we watch something else? It's about to get really good. It's about to get really good. Trust me.
So while the movie should be frowned at, it should also be applauded. Though maybe not at the same time. I don't know what that would look like or what message that's sending. So maybe separately. What else could I possibly say about a movie that is so bad that the director has had to come out and apologize for it on numerous occasions?
If I disappointed them in any way, then I really want to apologize, because it wasn't my intention. My intention was just to entertain them.
With that being said, if you like the video, then like this video. And if you want to see a follow-up to this Batman retrospective with another retrospective on the next line of Batman films, then let me know in the comments section by leaving a comment that says Robin was a real dick. Grayson. Feel free to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok, where I post about upcoming videos and other projects. Links in the description below. With that being said, I was your least favorite YouTuber, Infuso, and I thank you for watching. Hope to see you in the next one.
Not all heroes wear masks.
Ba-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da-ba-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da. There used to be a green tower alone on the sea. You became the light on the dark side of me. Love remained a drug, that's the high and not the pill. But did you know that when it snows my eyes become large and the light that you shine can be seen? Baby, I compare you to a kiss from a rose on the gray. Ooh, the more I get of you, the stranger it feels. Yeah, and now that your rose is in bloom, a light hits the gloom on the gray. Ba-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da. There is so much a man can tell you, so much he can say. You remain my power, my pleasure, my pain. Baby, to me you're like a growing addiction that I can't deny. Won't you tell me, is that healthy, baby? But did you know that when it snows my eyes become large and the light that you shine can be seen? Baby, I compare you to a kiss from a rose on the gray. Ooh, the more I get of you, the stranger it feels. Yeah, now that your rose is in bloom, a light hits the gloom on the gray. I've been kissed by a rose on the gray. I've been kissed by a rose on the gray. I've been kissed by a rose on the gray. And if I should fall,